Week 13, fantasy football start sits. We got a long stream ahead of us. How are we doing, everyone? Guys, it's week 13. Huge week for fantasy football. I mean, this is the last. We got 1 week, 2 weeks left in most fantasy leagues before the fantasy playoffs. We got to make the right decisions in our lineups this week. It really is a make or break week for most fantasy teams. So looking forward to breaking down this slate. Guys, this might be the most exciting slate of the week. On top of that, there's a lot of good games to get through today. It is not looking like Joe Mixon is going to play, but he has not been officially ruled out yet. But he's in the concussion protocol. So this one's really important to watch because if he's cleared, he's going to be 100%, I think, able to play. Not like he's going to be limited in any sense. If he clears the concussion protocol, which it sounds like he's not going to clear the concussion protocol in time to play today. That's actually why I have Samaje Perine in my top 15 running back rankings. Man, I did not think that would be the case in week 13 of the NFL season, but here we are. Samaje Perine, all of a sudden, a playable running back in week 13. If Joe Mixon is out, it does look like he's trending towards out. Let me pull up the list actually on YouTube Live. We're live on TikTok and YouTube. Guys, we're going to be live right up till kickoff today. Huge week in fantasy football. Let's just run through, first of all the guys that are out today. So Joe Mixon, trending towards being out. He's not officially out yet, though. He does have a small chance to play, but he's still in the concussion protocol. Doesn't sound like he's going to play. Mike Williams is still out. Matt Stafford on IR. He's probably done for the season. A-Rob is out. Kyle Pitts done for the season. KJ Hamler is still out. But Jerry Jeudy is looking like he's going to return. So Jeudy and Sutton back in the lineup together for the first time in a while. Definitely a little bit of a downgrade for Cortland Sutton with how bad that offense has been. Not really able to trust Jeudy in his first game back. Kadarius Toney still out. McCole Hardman still out. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire all still out. Jerick McKinnon was actually missing practices this week, but he's off the injury report. He's expected to play. Isaiah Pacheco, McKinnon are going to be the lead two backs against the Bengals in a game that should be pretty pass-heavy. A little bit tougher to trust Isaiah Pacheco this week, but he has seen 15-plus carries in back-to-back games. Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller continue to be out. Fire up Devontae Adams as a top 3 receiver, as always with confidence. Josh Jacobs is supposedly playing today. Similar situation to last week where he's questionable with the calf injury. He's testing it out pre-game, supposedly. But at the same time, we saw this last week, and he ripped off, almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. I mean, you got to start Josh Jacobs, and you got to plan that he's playing. A-Rob is playing. Wait, is he playing? Let me double-check this one. I thought that he was confirmed out, but let me just fact check this one really quickly. We'll get to all the start sits, of course, on this live stream. We're also live on YouTube. Right now, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube Live. You can see my top 15 rankings, every single position. Let me pull up my running back rankings next. Running back rankings are definitely much different, as always, than they were last week. I'm pulling up the Allen Robinson report. Yeah, no, he's out. He's out for the season. Undergo surgery. He's missing the rest of the season. So, yeah, I was correct. And whoever commented that was wrong. A-Rob is out for the rest of the season. So is Matt Stafford out rest of the season, basically. You can't trust any of the Rams players. I mean, I guess if you're really in a pinch, you could trot out Van Jefferson. He's probably going to lead the team in targets. You absolutely cannot be starting Tyler Higbee after another donut. He just does not look like he's at full health, despite what should be one of the top pass catching roles for the Rams. Don't bench Watson. Yeah, so I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this Christian Watson take, but I'm benching Christian Watson this week. I prefer a lot of different guys over Christian Watson. I even think I definitely prefer Garrett Wilson over Christian Watson. I wouldn't be surprised if Treylon Burks, Drake London outscore Christian Watson this week. I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if Corey Davis had a better week than Christian Watson. Now, I know Christian Watson's been balling out. I added Christian Watson on my leagues. I've been starting him the last 2 weeks. But, guys, he had a really good matchup against the Titans. He did well in a much tougher matchup against the Eagles. But the real reason I'm concerned here is Romeo Doubs is on the return this week. I do think Romeo Doubs will be back in the lineup today. Obviously, Allen Lazard's still there. I think Christian Watson is much closer to Gabriel Davis than people are realizing. Yeah, Romeo Doubs questionable for an ankle injury, but the reports were that he looked solid in practice and that they expect him to play. If Romeo Doubs comes back and sees even half the amount of work you're seeing before, I mean, the floor for Christian Watson is already pretty low. If we're being totally honest, the ceiling is high, but the floor is low for Christian Watson. Guys, he does not have a game this entire season with more than 4 catches. That is very Gabe Davis-esque. So, yeah, he has a good chance at a touchdown. He has a good chance to make a couple big plays, but he's probably not going to have more than 4 catches. So I'm a little nervous for Christian Watson today. You obviously can start him if you don't have any good backups. But again, I'd play Garrett Wilson over him. I'd consider Drake London over Christian Watson. I'd consider Traylon Burks over Christian Watson. And these are just some of the rookies that I would be playing over fellow rookie Christian Watson. All right, hey, Sam, do I start Donovan Knight or Jamal Williams? Yeah, so Michael Carter's out or trending towards out. He's not officially out, so I didn't actually put him on the out list on TikTok. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube, though. You can come see my top 15 rankings. Every single position on the YouTube live link is right in the TikTok bio. Thanks for sharing the live. Those of you in the TikTok live, do I start Travis Etienne? Yeah, you got to start Travis Etienne. Rachaad White, Miles Sanders. Let me get to this TikTok live subscriber. Rachaad White, Miles Sanders, Kyron Williams, Mostert. Yeah, I think I'd rank these guys probably in this order if this is a PPR league. I think I'd go Rachaad White over Kyron Williams and Mostert for sure. Miles Sanders is definitely close, but this is not a great matchup for Miles Sanders. The Titans' run defense has been really good, and the Titans' secondary has been really bad. This is going to be one of the better games of the day, by the way. Let me actually pull up my picks against the spread really quickly on the YouTube live. Again, come to the YouTube live. You're watching live on TikTok. You're like 2 presses of your finger away. A link is right in the TikTok bio. You can see all my picks against the spread. I am taking the Eagles -4.5 against the Titans. I do think the Eagles are better than the Titans. I also really like Jalen Hurts passing today. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a pretty big passing day. I don't know how effective the Eagles' rushing attack is going to be against a pretty elite defensive line for the Titans. Going back to the start sit, though, from CJ in the YouTube live, Donovan Knight or Jamal Williams. I kind of feel like you kind of have to go Jamal Williams. I think it's going to be a 3-way committee between Donovan Knight, between Ty Johnson, and between James Robinson. James Robinson was a healthy scratch last week, but he's going to be active this week. It wouldn't be shocking if any of those 3 guys led this backfield in touches. I do think it's going to be Donovan Knight. He looked like the best running back last week, but there's a really low floor for sure with Donovan Knight in this game. The Vikings secondary has also been really bad this season. Bottom 3 secondary this season. Mike White looked great last game. His over-unders are looking like a top 15 QB in the NFL. I mean, he's over-unders 32.5 passing attempts, 250 yards. Garrett Wilson's over-under today is 60 yards, and I don't hate that at all. The Jets passing attack looks so much better without Zach Wilson. DFS lineup. Yeah, let me pull my DFS lineup really quickly. The quarterback I'm going with in this DFS lineup, I'm stacking him, Trevor Lawrence. I'm going with Trevor Lawrence. He gets the Lions. He looked good last week. There's a lot of good potential quarterbacks in some high-scoring games today. I don't think very many people will be paying down for Trevor Lawrence in tournaments with the ceiling some of these other guys have. But, guys, Trevor Lawrence has back-to-back games with at least 21 fantasy points. He threw the ball at least 37 times in each of his last 2 games. He's coming off a 320-yard day against the Ravens, where he averaged 8.7 yards per attempt, his most of the season, and he threw 3 touchdowns. No INTs. 25 points. He was the number 5 QB last week. And this week, he gets an even better matchup against the Lions. Christian Kirk, I like him a lot. I know people are excited about Zay Jones. I do think Zay Jones has some opportunity today to do well like he did last week. I really like Travis Etienne, too. I think you got to start Travis Etienne. Guys, you got to target the Lions defense in fantasy. I'm going with the David Montgomery, Aaron Jones mini stack this week as well. They're playing each other. Both defenses have been pretty run funnel this season. The Bears run defense much worse than their secondary. And the Packers run defense, I mean, has been atrocious this season. Justin Fields is back this week. And I know there's going to be a lot of Justin Fields questions on this stream. And I will get to those, I promise. I think you got to consider Justin Fields in a lot of situations. He supposedly is close to full health. He's got a shoulder injury still. I do think that could limit his rushing, yet his over-under rushing line, guys, is 67.5 rushing yards. I mean, that's higher than Lamar Jackson's rushing line. He is the best runner, the best projected runner on the slate today. So you got to consider that a little bit, but I don't think Fields is going to run as much as that projection. I think it's going to be a lot of David Montgomery. He's seeing a true workhorse role. He's playing 80% plus of the snaps with no Khalil Herbert. And again, the Packers run defense has been really bad. So I like David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, both to score touchdowns today and be very, very involved in good matchups. I'm playing Garrett Wilson everywhere I have him, every DraftKings lineup. Against the Vikings, I think Garrett Wilson's ceiling, I still don't think people are fully grasping the ceiling for Garrett Wilson. His ceiling is top 5 wide receiver each week. That's his ceiling. That's why I think he's a must-start fantasy football player every single week for the rest of the season. He certainly has somewhat of a floor. He's still on the Jets. He doesn't have a game over 100 yards since week 8 against the Patriots. I think he could easily do that today, though, against the Vikings. A really good spot for him. He was the number 5 wide receiver last week. So we've already seen the ceiling from him. He scored 2 touchdowns on 5 catches, 8 targets, 95 yards. And I really think he's got more games like that in him. I would be starting Garrett Wilson everywhere. I also like Corey Davis as a deeper sleeper as well. I think he has a pretty good opportunity to do well against a bad Vikings secondary. Why are we benching Christian Watson? The reason we're benching Christian Watson is the matchup is not great, and Romeo Doubs is likely returning. I just think the floor for him is much lower than people realize. As he still has a ceiling, though. You absolutely can start Christian Watson if you don't have good options behind him. I'm also starting Amon-Ra. Really like Amon-Ra's ceiling and floor this week. I know Jameson Williams is returning. Very excited to see JMO play in the NFL, but he's not going to be seeing a full workload in his first game back. But I do think Jameson Williams can make big plays in just a small workload. But I don't think that's going to impact Amon-Ra St. Brown immediately, if at all. I'm definitely starting Amon-Ra with a lot of confidence. That's why he's in my DraftKings lineup. I like Pat Freiermuth a lot as well. Muth has been really a huge part of this Steelers offense since Chase Claypool has departed to the Bears. He is, to me, locked in as a top 6 tight end, and there's like a huge drop-off after those top 5 or 6 tight ends. He only had 4 targets last week, but the week before that he had 12, and the week before that he had 7. He's got 7+ targets very much within him today, and he's got a good matchup against the Vikings, so I like Muth a lot today as well. Let me actually pull up those tight end rankings I was speaking of. Yeah, it's really the top 6 are the only tight ends I can possibly trust with any amount of confidence, and that's why I have Taysom Hill right there at number 7, because I think his ceiling is just way higher than everybody else on the list. Taysom Hill set another season high in snap percentage last week too, so if you don't have Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Pat Freiermuth, or Dalton Schultz, again, those 6, I have some confidence in those 6. I think their floors are not terrible, and they all have a decent ceiling. But after that, man, you are really grasping at thin air. I mean, every other tight end after the top 6 could very realistically score 0 points, and I would not be surprised. That's why I have Taysom Hill ranked number 7. I think his ceiling is way higher than everyone else on the list. Again, he set another season high in snap percentage. So if you don't have those top 6 guys, I would be looking to Taysom Hill as a deep upside play in most fantasy leagues. Isaiah Pacheco or Adam Thielen. Yeah, I'd go Pacheco. Why is Fournette a bench? Because Rachaad White plays so well in Fournette's absence that Fournette is likely to return today. But when he returns, I still think Rachaad White gets more opportunity than Fournette. I think Fournette's like around RB 30, like right outside maybe the top 30, if that's the case. If Rachaad White's going to take half the work and a lot of the targets, he caught all 9 of his targets last week. Rachaad White played 91% of the snaps last week without Fournette, and he played very well. He was very effective. 109 yards, no touchdowns, but again, caught all 9 of his targets. So if Rachaad White even takes half the targets that Fournette usually gets, I think he's pretty much dust and can't be trusted in fantasy. Let's go from Ken. Happy Sunday, big dog. Need help, full PPR, pick 1 RB, please. Kamara, Sanders, Gus, Pacheco, and Fields or Burrow. Yeah, the Kamara stuff, guys. I mean, he's one of the toughest guys to have right now in fantasy. And if you have Kamara, you're still in the playoff hunt. I mean, good for you. He definitely is really disappointed, especially over the last month. But I still think you kind of have to start him, man. I know it's tough. He's still playing 75% plus of the snaps. He's still seeing pretty elite target volume. This is a PPR league. He had 7 targets in his last game. Luckily, he got pretty much all of his points through his receptions in PPR formats. But he's still too good, I think, to bench. It's a tough matchup against the Bucs, obviously. But I'm not playing Isaiah Pacheco over him. I'm not playing Gus Edwards over him, and I'm not playing Miles Sanders over him either. He doesn't have a great matchup either. So yeah, I think I'd go Alvin Kamara here in a PPR league. And then Fields versus Burrow. Let me pull up my QB rankings again one more time on the YouTube Live. Again, guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube Live. You're going to get my top 15 rankings, every single position. Link is right in the TikTok bio. Really do appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button too if you're watching live on YouTube. Really do appreciate that as well. But yeah, I think you got to go Joe Burrow. I think you got to go Joe Burrow over Justin Fields. The matchup for Joe Burrow is just too good. This is a game that's projected to be close with the Chiefs, and we have not seen too many close games with the Chiefs. And these Chiefs games that end up being close tend to be really, really high scoring. So yeah, I think you got to go with Joe Burrow. He's been cooking of late as well. Justin Fields is definitely an intriguing option. Again, his rushing prop line is the highest on the entire slate at the quarterback position, higher than even Lamar Jackson. But I think Joe Burrow is just so much safer with Justin Fields coming off the injury. There's absolutely a chance Justin Fields runs less due to this shoulder injury. So yeah, I'd go Joe Burrow. I have Justin Fields ranked number 6. I do have him one spot ahead of Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence arguably is a little safer against the Lions than even Fields is against the Packers. But I would play Fields over Tua. I would play Fields over Brady. I'd play Fields over Deshaun Watson, by the way. He's returning this week in Houston. Still have a very bad feeling about that game. Just in general, I think that was a mistake to have his first game back in Houston. But I mean, I'll be watching Deshaun very closely like the rest of you to see how he looks. He hasn't played in over a year and a half. We have not really seen him play. He played in the preseason. He looked terrible in the preseason. But guys, it's the preseason. So we can't read too much into the preseason. So yeah, I mean, going to be watching Deshaun really closely. He was a top 5 quarterback in the NFL a year and a half ago. He could easily be a top 5 talent in the NFL pretty quickly. I think he could crack the top 10 really fast. I have him number 9 this week. It's not obviously a terrible matchup against the Texans, but also the Browns are going to keep running, guys. I still think the Browns will be a run-first team, especially against the Texans. You got to love Nick Chubb this week against the Texans. Nick Chubb could easily rip off 150-plus yards. His over-under today is close to 100 rushing yards. Pick 2, Debo, Josh Palmer, Brian Robinson, Rachaad White, and Samaje Perine. Yes, again, Perine's a top 15 running back. I have him at number 15 if Joe Mixon sits, and it does look like Joe Mixon is going to sit. So I'm okay playing Samaje Perine over Josh Palmer. Debo is also injured. He's a really tough one to get a read on right now. He's tough because he's coming off some of his best games of the season. 2 weeks ago, he played the Cardinals. He had 9 targets, 7 catches, 57 yards. He had a couple rushing attempts too. He was the number 5 receiver. But then the next week, he still had 7 targets, but only 3 catches, 43 yards, 7.3 points. I'm a little nervous about Debo. I'm not going to lie. I don't think he's a must start this week, but I definitely would also play him over Josh Palmer. Brian Robinson, I don't hate this week at all. Antonio Gibson was dealing with an injury in practice this week, and Brian Robinson sort of retook over that backfield. It's going a little back and forth between the two, but it seems like B-Rob's going to end up on top. He had 18 carries, 3 targets, 125 yards, and a touchdown. He did have one big catch in that game that really sort of bailed out his fantasy day. But yeah, I think I would probably go Samaje and Brian Robinson over Josh Palmer, over Rachaad White, and I guess over Debo. It's really tough to keep Debo on your bench with how talented he is. Kind of similar to the Alvin Kamara situation, but I'm okay benching Debo. I do think his floor is pretty low. Sam, happy Sunday, man. White, Pacheco, or Gus Bus this week if Mixon is out. Yeah, so I do think Mixon's going to be out. Let me pull my running back rankings again. I actually don't think any of these guys are on the top 15 of the running back list. So I'll pull up my deeper list here that I have in front of me. And I do think that Rachaad White is behind Samaje Perine. You don't have Perine as the backup, though. Yeah, I think I would play Rachaad White over Isaiah Pacheco. I do. This is a game where Isaiah Pacheco could easily see 15-plus carries again in this game, but it's not a great matchup for Pacheco. The Bengals have been decent against the run. Let me pull up the numbers here. And yeah, the Bengals have been the number 8 best team against running backs this season. The Bengals defense has actually been pretty elite overall this season. They're top 10 against running backs, receivers, and quarterbacks this season. They've been the worst against tight ends. But yeah, I don't love Pacheco this week. I know McKinnon will be active, and Ronald Jones is probably going to get some touches as well. Pacheco has only 1 catch in his last 3 games, so he's not going to be a very big factor in the passing game either. And again, this could be a really high-scoring, very pass-heavy game between the Chiefs and the Bengals. So I'm okay going with Rachaad White over Isaiah Pacheco. I think I would go Dameon Pierce over Pacheco as well. I know Dameon Pierce has been struggling. Isaiah Pacheco's and Pierce, their arrows are sort of pointing in opposite directions, but this is not a terrible matchup for Dameon Pierce. He does get the Browns. Let me pull this up here with Dameon Pierce. The Browns have been really bad, guys, really bad against running backs. They're bottom 5 defense against running backs this entire season. I have Dameon Pierce as a top 20 option. I do think it's okay to go Dameon Pierce over Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, they're close. I do think Dameon Pierce will catch more passes, though, than Pacheco. Morning, Sam. Good morning, all of you. A shout out to everyone in this live right now. Really appreciate you all. This is going to be a fantastic week of football, guys. We got so many good games on this slate. I mean, there's too many to even go through all at once, but I will go through all of them throughout this live stream. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. Come to the YouTube live to see my top 15 rankings for every single position just right on the live. It'll answer a lot of the comments I'm seeing in TikTok and in YouTube. Let me pull my top 15 wide receivers right now. But let's get to this question. Bam Knight or Antonio Gibson, Christian Watson, Treylon, or Curtis Samuel. Yeah, I think I would go Antonio Gibson over Bam Knight. I do have Antonio Gibson as a must bench for most people. But Bam Knight, guys, I like him. He's an ad. I don't think he's a start. I think he was an ad, but not a start. And this is how I feel a lot of times off the waiver wire. He's got a really low floor. I would not be surprised if we see a 10-carry, 25-yard day out of Bam Knight. It just wouldn't be that shocking. Ty Johnson will be involved. James Robinson will be involved. I do think Bam Knight's the best out of those 3 guys. But let's not pretend like he's a high floor. I do think Gibson's floor is higher, even with dealing with his own injury. Christian Watson, Treylon Burks, or Curtis Samuel. So, I do think Christian Watson's much riskier this week than he has been the past 3 weeks. He really has a low floor. He doesn't have a game more than 4 catches. He is a copy and paste of Gabriel Davis. He's like a faster Gabriel Davis, but with a worse, in a worse offensive situation. Romeo Doubs is returning, and I see that in a good way and a bad way. Like Gabe Davis has a good ceiling. I actually thought he was a start on Thursday night. He did score a touchdown, but he also only had 4 catches. It was, what was it, less than 4 catches? I think he had 2 catches in that game. Similar to Gabe Davis, Christian Watson, he probably isn't going to have more than 4 catches in a game, but he doesn't need more than 4 to have big games. He can still have big plays, but it's definitely makes his floor really low, because if he doesn't have a big play in those 4 catches, he's probably going to go under 10 fantasy points. And Gabe Davis had 2 catches, 15 yards, but 1 touchdown, bailing out his fantasy day. We could see a similar stat line from Christian Watson this week. I do think he's startable, but I'd look other ways, and I don't think Treylon Burks over Christian Watson is that crazy to say. I assume Christian Watson projects better than Treylon Burks, but I actually think their prop lines are pretty close. I would play both these guys over Curtis Samuel, though. Treylon Burks, by the way, let me run through this on the TikTok live. I'll talk through it on the YouTube live as well. By the way, my final answer here is Treylon Burks over Christian Watson. But there's a lot of revenge games this week. Gotta love the revenge game narrative. We got A.J. Brown going back against the Titans. We got DJ Chark playing against the Jaguars. We got Marvin Jones playing against the Jaguars. We got Jamal Agnew playing against we got Marvin Jones playing against the Lions. We got Jamal Agnew playing against the Lions. We got Equanimous St. Brown playing against the Packers. We got Tyler Conklin playing against the Vikings. That's a revenge game. We got Latavius Murray against the Ravens. That's a revenge game. We got Jeff Wilson playing against the 49ers and Raheem Mostert playing against the 49ers. 2 revenge games right there. We got Trent Sherfield against 49ers as well. And James Winston, I guess, is a revenge game, but he's not going to be playing today. But yeah, lots of revenge games today. My favorite, obviously, is the A.J. Brown one. We got A.J. Brown going up against Treylon Burks, the 2 guys that were basically traded straight up for one another. You got to love A.J. Brown in that game. Would you start Montgomery over Jay Taylor? Yeah, I would. If you come to the YouTube live, which is right in the TikTok bio, you can see my top 15 rankings every position. And I would play David Montgomery over basically most running backs this week. I have him ranked ahead of Kenneth Walker, ahead of Saquon Barkley, ahead of Aaron Jones, ahead of Jonathan Taylor. I even have ahead of Nick Chubb, and I really am bullish on David Montgomery's workload just in general. I don't think you can project many players for the workload that David Montgomery is going to get, and it's a good matchup against a bad Packers run defense. Good morning, and happy game day, Sam. Happy game day to you as well. Start 2 wide receivers: Amon-Ra, Amari, Debo, Michael Pittman, Ayuka, the Bazooka, and also Lamar or Deshaun Watson. Now, I'm playing Lamar over Deshaun. I'm absolutely got to play Amon-Ra. And I think you go Amari Cooper as well. I'd bench Debo. I'd bench Michael Pittman. I'd bench Ayuk. I'd play Amon-Ra, and I'd play Amari. I'm pretty excited to see how Amari looks with Deshaun. But I think Lamar's still safer than Deshaun, even in a tougher matchup than Deshaun has. Nico Pickens or Rashad White. Yeah, I think I would. If this is a PPR league, I'm okay going Nico or Pickens here. Pickens has a great matchup against the Falcons. Nico playing without Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is supposed to be out today. I don't think I put that one in the list, but that's kind of a big one. Nico Collins is pretty locked in. To the number 1 wide receiver role for the Texans. But the Browns secondary hasn't been bad. And again, their run defense against running backs has been really, really bad. So I think I'd probably go George Pickens. He's looked pretty good. And he gets a good matchup against the Falcons. Yo, Sam, quick question. Who do I start? Dak, Rodgers, Carr, or Tua? Thank you, Yellen. Pull my QB rankings here. I do think that will address this question. I have Tua ranked a little bit lower than he usually is because it's a tough matchup. He's got a tough matchup against the 49ers. I still think he's better than all of these guys, though. I still think I'd play Tua over Aaron Rodgers, over Dak Prescott. That one's kind of close. I have Dak at number 10, Tua at number 8. I would play Tua over Deshaun still as well, but I wouldn't play Tua over Trevor Lawrence. I wouldn't play Tua over Justin Fields or Lamar or Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert or Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes. So that's sort of where I have Tua in the rankings today. Brady or Geno, I do think I have Brady one spot ahead of Geno. I mean, right back to back. Thoughts on Treylon Burks? Yeah, the Treylon Burks breakout is happening. I mean, it's quietly happening. Nobody's giving it too much attention compared to some of these other rookies. But yeah, Treylon Burks is the clearly most talented receiver on the Titans. It's honestly not that much different of a situation than DJ Moore. DJ Moore, clearly the only talented receiver that the Panthers have. It's kind of similar for the Titans. And honestly, you could argue it's a better situation with Ryan Tannehill than it is with Sam Darnold. For DJ Moore, Treylon Burks has back-to-back games with at least 17 points. He played a season-high 72% of the snaps. Last week, he's seen at least 6 targets now in 3 straight games. And he gets another tough matchup this week, but a game that the Eagles are probably going to be winning. The Eagles are 4.5-point favorites in this game. And I do like Jalen Hurts to have a pretty good passing day against a bad Titans secondary too. So, yeah, I do generally like Treylon Burks and think that people are underrating him overall. Rachaad White, Tony Pollard, or Pickens at flex. Yeah, I'd go Pollard. I think you've got to start Tony Pollard this week against the against the Colts. They're 10-point favorites, I think, maybe more in that game. I mean, it's a great spot, again, for Tony Pollard. Even with Zeke back, Tony Pollard seeing 15-plus touches at least in these games, and he's so efficient that I have him as a top 15, top 20 running back this week. I think he still has a really, really high ceiling. We've seen it from him. We know he's got big receiving ability too, and it's a good matchup against the Colts. They rank bottom 12 against running backs this season, partially because they're losing so many games. So it's going to be a positive game script. It should be a positive game script at least for Tony Pollard. So yeah, I like Tony Pollard a lot. Oh, Najee Gibson. I'd play Najee over Gibson for sure. Najee, White, Pacheco. I think I'd play Najee over White and Pacheco as well. Happy Football Sunday. Yeah, I'd play Najee over White and Pacheco. I'd play Mike Evans, though, I think, over Najee. I'm okay starting Mike Evans and Godwin against the Saints. Fields or Lamar, 6-point passing touchdowns. Yeah, I have Lamar one spot ahead of Fields. I do feel like he's a little safer still than Fields. Neither has a great matchup. The run defense for the Packers hasn't been good, so if you're bullish on the running for Fields, then I'm okay going Fields. I'm just nervous about the shoulder injury limiting his rushing a little bit. That's why I would go Lamar. And then Kamar or Chase full PPR. Yeah, so this is the first question I've seen about Jamar Chase. Guys, you got to start Jamar Chase. The latest report I saw is literally no pitch count. No pitch count is in the cards. There's definitely a chance at a pitch count for Jamar Chase, but even a pitch count Jamar Chase, even if he runs half the routes than he normally runs, I mean, he's got a good chance at a touchdown. This is going to be a really high-scoring game against the Chiefs. A very competitive game. It's projected to be a 4-point game. So you got to start Jamar Chase. I mean, there's no way around it. If you have Jamar Chase, you're starting him. He's too good to keep on your bench in a matchup like this. Even with the injury concerns, you got to start Jamar, and you should be pumped that he's back this week. I mean, it's huge. I mean, absolutely huge for the Bengals to get him back. Hey, Sam, obviously you're still starting T. Higgins as well. We've seen T. Higgins have enough big games with Jamar playing. Should I play Sutton or Lockett wide receiver? You got to go Lockett over Sutton. With Judy back, Sutton's floor is absolutely lower now, and the whole Broncos offense is abysmal. They're averaging the least touchdowns per game in the NFL, only 1.3 touchdowns per game. That's one of the worst we've ever seen in the NFL in history. I mean, it's horrible. 1.3 touchdowns per game. Think about how bad that is. That's like 10 points a game that you're basically averaging as an offense. You got to start Lockett for sure against the Rams or over Sutton against the Ravens, even though it's a good matchup against the Ravens secondary. And then Sutton, Pickens, or B-Rob for flex. I think I would probably go Pickens or B-Rob over Sutton as well. And then Pat Freiermuth or Kittle. You got to go Kittle. You got to go Kittle against the Dolphins. I like Muth, but Kittle has a higher ceiling. Hi, Sam. Start McLaurin, Olave, or Zay Jones. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's McLaurin or Olave still for me over Zay Jones. I get that Zay Jones coming off a really good game, but I don't think he's a must start over Olave or McLaurin. Let me actually pull up the wide receiver rankings here. I don't think any of these guys are in the top 15 this week, so I'm actually interested to see where this shakes out. And yeah, we do have McLaurin. We have McLaurin ahead of Olave, and Olave a few spots ahead of Zay Jones. Actually, not that crazy of a question. They're all within 10 rankings of each other. I would go McLaurin, then Olave, then Zay Jones, though. That's where I stand. Good morning, Sam. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, guys. This is one of the best Sundays of the entire year. We got week 13, final stretch in the fantasy season. I mean, if you're feeling like the fantasy season is dragging on, by the way, and I even feel this sometimes. I'm in way too many leagues. You got to push through these last few weeks. We worked so hard to get our fantasy teams where they are. You can't give in now. You just a couple more wins, then we got the fantasy playoffs, and then we get to compete for fantasy championships. That's what it's all about, man. All right, Edwards or Kyron Williams. I want nothing to do really with either of these guys. Gus Edwards, let me pull up the numbers for Gus. I think I saw that Kenyon Drake is playing too. I mean, the backfield, is J.K. Dobbins back this week? I don't think he's active, but he's like close to returning. I mean, the backfield for the Ravens is about to be an absolute mess. Yeah, Gus Edwards had 16 carries. 16 carries in his last game. That's absolutely not bad. It is startable. He did score a touchdown, but still didn't go over 10 points. He's not going to catch passes. I'm okay going Kyron Williams over Gus in a full PPR league. Samothy, choose one. I don't think I've ever been called Samothy. There's a new nickname for me on each one of these lives. Shout out to everyone in this live, by the way. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. Come to the YouTube live. You'll see my top 15 rankings, every single position. You'll see my picks against the spread. You'll see my DraftKings lineup. You'll see my favorite player prop, which I haven't actually given away yet, but I will very, very shortly after this question. All on the YouTube live. I think it's right in the TikTok bio. If you're watching live on TikTok, you're like 2 presses of your finger away. I think I would play Pacheco over Sutton, but it's close. I think Pacheco's safer than Sutton. Sutton maybe has a slightly higher ceiling. Zeke or Ayuk. That one's pretty close too. I'm okay going Ayuk though, and what could be a high-scoring game. All right, let's get to this question from Adrian. Sutton, Rachaad White, Burks, or Brian Robinson? Yeah, lots of Sutton questions. Unsurprisingly, again, with Jerry Jeudy back, I do think you got to lower Sutton a little bit in the rankings. I don't think he's a must bench. I think I probably would play. Let me actually pull this up. We have Courtland Sutton projected for 12.7 PPR points, and Rachaad White's probably right around there too. Yeah, Rachaad White's right at 12. And I do kind of feel like Rachaad White's a little bit safer than Sutton. Again, with Jeudy back, it's a good matchup though. So like you absolutely can start Sutton just with how bad the Broncos offense has been. The floor for Sutton is absolutely really low. I wouldn't play Burks over Rachaad White. And I don't think I'd play B-Rob over Rachaad White either. Yeah, I wouldn't. In a PPR league, I'd go Rachaad White over B-Rob as well. So yeah, I think the answer here is Rachaad White. It's super close though. Definitely a tough one. There, Adrian. Hey, Sam, start Montgomery, Kamara, or White. Thank you so much. You got to go Montgomery. There's no benching David Montgomery this week. I have him as a top 5 running back this week. Really good matchup against the Packers. Guys, the Packers, they have been horrible. Terrible against running backs. They have allowed the 7th most fantasy points per game to running backs this season. They've been even worse in yards allowed per game to running backs. Last week, Miles Sanders ripped off 143 yards on 21 carries, 2 touchdowns in that game for Miles Sanders. Derrick Henry, the week before that, he had over 120 combined yards and a touchdown. In that game, we saw Tony Pollard before that rip off 115 yards against the Packers. They really have stopped basically no running backs this season. Excuse me. David Montgomery has at least 14 carries, at least 67 rushing yards in each of his last 2 games. And he should be the focal point of the offense again against the Packers. The Packers run defense, guys. They've allowed the third most yards per game to running backs this season. They've allowed at least one running back to clear 65 rushing yards in 10 out of 12 games. 83% of the games for the Packers, at least one running back has at least 65 rushing yards. I think that's dead last in the NFL. You can fact check me on that. There might be a couple other teams, bad run defenses out there, but that's pretty bad. At least 65 rushing yards in 10 out of 12 games to one running back for the Packers. You got to like David Montgomery, really high floor, really high ceiling, workhorse role, no Khalil Herbert. Justin Fields might be a little bit limited rushing as well. A lot of people in the TikTok Live are wondering why I think Christian Watson is a sit. And the real reason I think Christian Watson is a sit is his floor. And don't get me wrong, Christian Watson has a decent ceiling. He could have a big game, but he's in a Gabriel Davis type role, guys. He doesn't have a single game over 4 catches. He's got 6 touchdowns on 12 catches in his last 3 games. Half of his catches in his last 3 games have been touchdowns. Really, really boom bust option. And we've seen the boom in recent weeks. I think it's only a matter of time till we see the bust come for Christian Watson. And why not this week? Romeo Doubs is returning. Again, he's probably not going to have more than 4 catches. So you're really banking on some big plays in those 4 catches. We've seen he has the ability to do that, but his floor is lower than most of the guys that you're probably starting that you're probably starting Christian Watson over. So yeah, I'm okay benching Christian Watson just overall. Not a super easy matchup for him this week against the Bears. Sam, McLaurin or Pirine for flex? Yeah, I would probably go McLaurin over Pirine. Pirine's not terrible though. Against the Chiefs, I'm at number 15 running back. I'm assuming Joe Mixon's not playing because that was the report I saw that he's trending towards not playing. Certainly watching the news to stay up to date on that, but I actually think that game might be later in the day today as well. So that's not good news for the Joe Mixon report. Yeah, it is. It's at 4:25, so we're not going to know for sure about Mixon during the stream, most likely. But I'm okay going McLaurin. I do like McLaurin. He's been having a pretty steady season, and let me pull up this here. He gets the Giants. They actually have been pretty good against receivers this season. Yeah, McLaurin has at least 9 points in every single game that he's played with Taylor Heineke this season. It's a pretty good floor. It's a pretty good floor for McLaurin. I'm okay going McLaurin. But obviously, we got to monitor the Joe Mixon stuff because if Joe Mixon is out, Pirine has probably an even better floor than McLaurin. Pirine's been in close to a workhorse role with Joe Mixon out. Let me pull up the Pirine stuff really quickly. I actually might change my answer here. I don't feel good about Pirine. I've been honestly pretty harsh on Pirine on these lives the last couple of weeks, and I've been wrong about Samaje Pirine the last couple of weeks. He had 11 carries in that first game without Joe Mixon. He got 4 catches, but he had 3 touchdowns against the Steelers. He was the number 2 running back in that first game without Mixon. Then last week, he gets the Titans. Not a good matchup for running backs, the Tennessee Titans. He sees 17 carries. He still had another 4 catches, 93 yards, played 80% of the snaps, and another touchdown. Yeah, I think you got to go Pirine. Honestly, you got to go Pirine over McLaurin. If Joe Mixon sits, again, I think McLaurin plays at 1, though. Let me pull this up again. Yeah, they do. the Commanders play at 1, and the Bengals play at 4:25 Eastern. I don't think Mixon's playing, but it does make this a much riskier choice. Again, if we know Mixon's not playing, though, I'd go P. Ryan. Zay Jones, Rachaad White, George Pickens. Oh, God, the Zay Jones stuff is pretty tough for me. I'm not going to lie. It's tough for me to start Zay Jones over George Pickens. But I think that's what you have to do. Yeah, I think that's what you have to do. I would start Zay Jones over George Pickens against – it's a good matchup for him against the Lions. Rachaad White's definitely close to him, though. But yeah, I have Zay Jones. I do have Zay Jones projected better than Rachaad White. I'm okay going Zay Jones over Rachaad White. I'm okay going Zay Jones over George Pickens. Hey, Sam, you rock. Start Moreau or Hurst. I'd go Hurst over Moreau. I could always pick up Bryant or Henry. Yeah, you're not picking up either of those guys. You got to go with Hurst. I'll pull up this really quickly again, though. My tight end rankings on the YouTube Live. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. As always, on the YouTube Live, you get my top 15 rankings, every single position. I would play Claypool over Donovan Peoples-Jones. By the way, I actually don't hate Claypool as a deeper sleeper this week. After the top 6 tight ends, I have zero confidence in any of these tight ends. I think Hayden Hurst is his ceiling in what could be a shootout against the Chiefs. Kind of interesting. But would I be surprised if Hayden Hurst had 2 catches for 13 yards? No. I wouldn't be surprised about any of the tight ends after the top 6 having that stat line. So again, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Schultz. These guys have to be locked in your starting lineups. They absolutely have a decent floor and a high ceiling. But after that, I'm going Taysom Hill right after that. I would play Taysom Hill over Hayden Hurst. I'd play him over Gerald Everett. I'd play him over Foster Moreau. I'd play him over Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin, kind of an interesting sleeper too. I'd play him over Greg Dulcich. I'd play him over Evan Ingram. I'd play him over Robert Tonyan. I'd play him over Tyler. I'd play him over everyone, basically. Outside of those top 6 tight ends, I think Taysom's ceiling, it's hard to make the Taysom start decision sometimes because his floor is obviously really low. But when you factor in his ceiling being so much higher than the rest of those tight ends after those top 6, I really think it makes sense to start him, even though there's a good chance he hits his floor just like the rest of the tight ends. Hey, Sam, Dak or Fields? I'm going Fields, man. I'm going Fields over Dak. I still don't hate. I don't hate Dak at all. But the Cowboys are huge favorites against the Colts. The Colts secondary is much better than their run defense. And Justin Fields, he's been running so much in the games before his injury that he still is a pretty intriguing start. But I wouldn't be shocked if we see Fields take a pretty big step back in this game either if he doesn't run as much. That's why I'm at number 6 instead of in the top 5 where he was before the injury. Not necessarily a fantastic matchup for Fields against the Packers. Their secondary has been pretty good this season, but their run defense has been terrible. So that could bode well for Justin Fields if he is running. So yeah, I would go Fields over Dak. I would not play Jeff Wilson over Pickens. Jeff Wilson had a pretty bad game last week. Dolphins get the 49ers. Revenge game for Jeff Wilson. So that'll be an interesting storyline to watch, but revenge game for Raheem Mostert too. The Dolphins are the 49ers backfield, the former 49ers backfield. So that one will be interesting to watch. But yeah, I'm okay going Pickens over Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. Juju or Zay Jones, Garrett Wilson or Pierce. Yeah, so I personally play Juju over Zay Jones. I have a feeling Zay Jones projects better than Juju. Yeah, he does. He's actually 2 spots ahead in the rankings from Walter in the WalterPicks app. So the projections like Zay Jones. I think Juju against the Bengals in that game, I want a piece of that game. I get Zay Jones is a good matchup against the Lions too, though. That's probably why he projects better. I'm personally going Juju over Zay Jones, though. And then Garrett Wilson or Dameon Pierce, man, you're not benching Garrett Wilson this week. There's no benching Garrett Wilson this week. I honestly think Garrett Wilson should be locked in to everybody's starting lineup for the rest of the season. We've seen the ceiling now. I don't feel like enough people are wrapping their heads around the true ceiling for Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson has the top 5 wide receiver ceiling for the rest of the season. As long as Zach Wilson is on the sidelines, Garrett Wilson's top 5 upside. I'm not saying he's a top 5 wide receiver. I'm saying he could finish inside the top 5 in his best games. And we saw it last week against a decent Bears secondary, 5 catches, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns in the rain as well. He played 82% of the snaps in that game. Clear favorite target for Mike White. I think you got to go Garrett Wilson. Such a good matchup for him against the Vikings. I have him in my top 15 wide receiver rankings. Let me pull up those again on the YouTube Live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube Live. Catch the top 15 rankings every single position. I just traded Montgomery and Amari Cooper. Yeah, I don't love that. I don't love that. Probably bad timing to do that, honestly. Dalton Schultz or Hayden Hurst, you got to go Dalton Schultz. Why bench Watson? Yeah, so again, Watson, his floor is just low. Deshaun Watson or Goff, I would go Deshaun Watson over Goff. Start Jamar Chase. Yeah, guys, you got to start. You got to start Jamar Chase. There's no way around just not starting Jamar Chase. P. Ryan or Pollard? Yeah, I'm going Pollard for sure over P. Ryan. I do have Pollard ahead of him, 2 spots ahead of him in my rankings. They're kind of similar, right? They're both backups. Pollard just so much better than P. Ryan. I can't start P. Ryan over Pollard, even with Zeke playing and Joe Mixon likely not playing. Hey, Sam, Trevor Lawrence or Lamar? I have Andrews. Yeah, I'm still going Lamar over Trevor Lawrence. I like Trevor Lawrence this week. I think there's a case for him over Lamar. I know Lamar's he hasn't had his ceiling games a lot recently, but the floor is still pretty solid for Lamar with his rushing. I'm okay going Lamar. I like the Lamar Andrew stack still as well. I do like Trevor Lawrence this week too, but yeah, I like Lamar more. Hey, Sam, ETN or Dalvin this week? I have Kenneth Walker at flex. Yeah, let me pull my running back rankings again here on the YouTube live. I do have ETN and Dalvin both in the top 15. I have ETN one spot ahead of Dalvin. I don't dislike ETN this week. He's dealing with an injury. Obviously, he sat pretty much the entire game last week with a foot injury, kind of concerning. The reports have all been positive this week. It definitely is possible to backfire here with the foot injury, but it's a great spot against the Lions, man. I'm going ETN over Dalvin this week. Let's pull up this one here. Love the app. Yeah, Hudson, thanks, man. If you guys haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet, it's on the iOS and Android app store. It's completely free. I've spent the last 3 years of my life building this app. It's going to help you in fantasy. And again, it's free to download. There are some premium subscriptions that do cost money in the app. They come with a free trial, and you don't need them to use pretty much the entire app. So check it out. It's in the TikTok bio. It's in the YouTube description if you're watching live on YouTube or TikTok. Check out the WalterPicks app. I'm not going to be able to get to all the comments in this live. I never do. I never can. There's too many comments. I get to as many as I can. I try to hit on all the big topics of the day, like starting Jamar Chase, like starting Samaje Perine when Joe Mixon is out. But I'm not going to get to every comment. That's just the reality. The other good thing about the app, the WalterPicks app, it is going to give you insights custom to your league settings, your scoring settings, your roster settings for trades as well. I can't always do that on this live because sometimes I don't even get the scoring information in the comment. This one I did, though, Hudson. Thank you for letting me know this is half PPR. All right. We got Cordero Patterson, Jeff Wilson, Adam Thielen, Van Jefferson, Drake London, DJ Chark. You got to start one wide receiver, one flex, one running back. Yeah, I think I'd probably go. I think I would go Jeff Wilson over Cordero. And I wouldn't. I would go Cordero over Jeff Wilson at the running back slot. And then I think I would go with Drake London and Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's coming off his best game of the season. He's been pretty bad for the most part this season. Definitely way worse than what people who drafted him were hoping for. I didn't draft much Adam Thielen myself, but he played 93% of the snaps last week. He had 10 targets. He now has at least 7 targets, guys. Adam Thielen, he's got at least 7 targets in all but 2 games this season. Again, he hasn't really had any huge games, but he's coming off his best game of the season. He had 61 yards and a touchdown on 9 catches last week. He gets the Colts. Sorry, not the Colts. He gets the Jets this week. Not a great matchup for him. Obviously, Justin Jefferson going to get a lot of attention, though. I'm okay going Thielen here, coming off a pretty good game. Swift or White? First Swift question we've seen here, Joey. And I mean, has there been a harder guy to have on your team than DeAndre Swift this season? You know the talent's there with DeAndre Swift, but the volume's just not there. He doesn't have the goal line role. He's playing like 35% of the snaps. Honestly, I think you got to go Rachaad White over Swift. Swift is supposedly getting healthier and healthier, but I'm okay going Rachaad White over Swift, coming off such a good game for Rachaad White. Guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, you got my top 15 rankings, every position on the YouTube live. If you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. Hit that subscribe button too. Really do appreciate that. Helps me out a ton, way more than you'd probably realize. Knight or Pickens? Yeah, I'm going Pickens over Knight. I like Bam Knight. I like him, but I'm not starting him. I don't want to start him. I really don't. I wanted to add him as a speculative add. I know Michael Carter's out this week, but it's going to be a 3-way committee between him, between Ty Johnson and James Robinson, who is a healthy scratch. He's going to be out there as well. Walker, ETN, and I have CMC. You're starting CMC, and you're playing Walker over ETN as much as I like ETN. Hi, Sam. Start Aaron Jones or Sanders? Thanks. You got to go Aaron Jones, Brad. It's a good match for Aaron Jones against the Bears. If I pull up my DraftKings lineup here on the YouTube live, again, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. If you're watching live on TikTok, you'll see my DraftKings lineup right on the screen. I'm starting Trevor Lawrence, stacking him with Christian Watson against the Lions, and I'm running it back with Amon-Ra St. Brown in that same game. But I'm also starting David Montgomery and Aaron Jones in this DraftKings lineup too. Both guys are playing each other. Both teams are run funnel defenses. The Packers run funnel defense. The Bears run funnel defense. Both secondaries much better than their run defenses. Montgomery's seeing an elite workhorse role, 80% plus snap share. He's going to see 15 plus touches in this game minimum. He has 25 plus touches within his range of outcomes, especially if Justin Fields runs a little bit less because of that shoulder injury. Aaron Jones, he's going to be closer to half the snaps, 60% of the snaps with AJ Dillon mixing in. But Aaron Jones is the best player that the Packers have on offense and against the Bears run defense, you got to assume he's getting at least 12 to 15 carries in this game in targets as well. I'm also going with Garrett Wilson against the Vikings. Really like that. I'm going with Muth against the Falcons. And to wrap it up, I'm going Nico Collins in the flex. No Brandon Cooks today. Nico Collins locked in to 7+ targets in this game. He's a sneaky sleeper for all of you that are scrapping for scraps on the waiver wire. And then last but not least, I'm going the Seahawks defense. This one feels like a layup. Guys, just keep playing the defenses that are playing the Rams and that are playing the Broncos. On my teams that I know are going to be in the fantasy playoffs, by the way, I already went out. I added the defenses that in weeks 15, 16, 17 are playing the Rams and the Broncos. I believe it's the Chiefs. They get a game against the Broncos, maybe even 2 in that span. I mean, you got to add these defenses playing ahead if you know you're in the fantasy playoffs. Hey, Sam, pick 2, Najee, Pierce, ETN, or Miles Sanders. Yeah, I'd go these middle two. I'd play Pierce and ETN over Najee and Miles Sanders. Absolutely, it's ETN, actually. Najee, let me pull up the latest on Najee here because I do think he's going to play. He was really starting to heat up before he got hurt. Let me pull up the latest on Najee before I officially say you shouldn't start him here in this one. But I do think he's playing this week against the Falcons. Yeah, he's good, and will play week 13 against Atlanta. He was surprisingly removed from the final injury report. He didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday. Jaylen Warren is also active in this game, though. Like, that's a little sketchy. He was starting to mix in a little bit more as well, even before the Najee Harris injury. So yeah, I think I would go ETN and Pierce. I'm a little nervous for Miles Sanders in this game, though Sanders is probably a little safer than Pierce. I like Pierce better. The Pierce is getting a game against the Browns. Guys, the Browns have been bottom 5 against running backs this season. They've been horrible. Horrible against running backs. Josh Jacobs scared he won't play. Jamal Williams or P. Ryan. Yeah, I would go P. Ryan over Jamal. I think I would go P. Ryan over Jamal. It's close. Obviously, Jamal has been balling, man. I think he's leading the league in touchdowns, or he's close to leading the league in touchdowns. An insane amount of TDs for Jamal. Jamal Williams, by the way, one of the best ball picks this season because you don't have to worry about starting or benching him each week, and he's just scoring so many touchdowns. A lot of the teams that are going to be advancing for me in best ball do have Jamal Williams on it. But yeah, I'd go P. Ryan over Jamal if Jacobs doesn't play. But guys, I think Jacobs is playing, and you got to start Josh Jacobs. It's like a copy and paste situation from last week. And if we learned anything from last week, you got to start Josh Jacobs. It's the same calf injury from last week. He didn't practice much this week, if at all, but he didn't really practice last week. He's going to test it out pregame. But if he plays, he's going to play like 80%, 90% of the snaps. I mean, look at the stat line, guys. For Josh Jacobs last week, again, it was the same situation. It was the same calf injury last week. And last week, calf injury, sure, before the game. He tested out pregame. He's fine. He plays 86% of the snaps. He sees 33 carries and 6 catches. I mean, he had 40 opportunities, 33 carries, 7 targets last week. He had 303 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Seahawks, guys. I mean, obviously he won that game in overtime on a huge run. That was a big play of the day, but it wasn't just that play, guys. He saw, insane volume in this offense. There's no Darren Waller. There's no Hunter Renfrow. It's just him and Devontae Adams. He's not going to have another 48-point fantasy game, but it's another good matchup for him. Against the Chargers, their run defense has been even worse than the Seahawks this season. So you got to start Josh Jacobs, assuming he plays. Obviously, that would be devastating if he doesn't play. If you have him, so have a backup plan. Don't not have a backup plan, but you got to trust that Jacobs is playing based on last week. Start at QB, Hurts, Fields, or Watson. Yeah, let me pull up the QB rankings, and I think it's pretty easily Jalen Hurts. The Tennessee Titans secondary, they have not been very good this season. Is Joe Mixon out? Joe Mixon is likely out. Yeah, I saw that one in the TikTok live. I personally, and I'll be very transparent about this, I don't really want to root for Deshaun Watson. So maybe that's impacting my ranking just a tiny bit, but I still have him as a top 10 quarterback. I'm not playing him over Fields or Hurts. I would play Deshaun over Dak and Brady and Geno and Jimmy G and Mariota and Derek Carr, but I'm not playing Deshaun Watson over Tua or Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or Lamar or Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert. None of these guys I'm playing Deshaun over. And there's for sure just risk with Deshaun in general. Again, he hasn't played in a year and a half. He didn't look in the preseason. I'm not reading too much in the preseason. I'd caution you to read too much in the preseason, just in general. It's week 13 now, guys. We've seen basically all the preseason narratives just completely washed away per usual. But yeah, I play Fields and Hurts over Watson. I play Hurts over Fields as well. Zeke or Jeff Wilson. Oh God, I think the answer is Zeke. Let me pull this up. Yeah, it is. It's not. We have Jeff Wilson 2 spots ahead of Zeke. I honestly, I think I would go Zeke though over Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's in a tough spot because he was seeing the RB1 usage for the Dolphins, which is pretty good. It's not a good matchup for him against the 49ers, though it is a hashtag revenge revenge game for him. He has played at least 60% of the snaps in his last 2 games. He's probably going to see, around 15 carries in this game. Probably not very many targets. He scored a touchdown in 3 straight. And that's Jeff Wilson we're talking about here. Again, against the 49ers, the 49ers have been pretty strong, I think, against the run. Let me pull this up. Yeah, they have. The 49ers have allowed the least yards per game to running backs this entire season. So, yeah, I would go Zeke. Zeke is a 10-point favorite against the Colts, at least 10-point favorites against the Colts. Let me actually pull up my picks against the spread here on the YouTube Live again. I believe, yeah, they're 10-point favorites. And I actually like them against the spread, too. I think the Cowboys could beat the Colts by more than that. Pick 2, Pacheco, Pierce, or Knight. Yeah, I'd go these first 2. Again, I like Bam Knight. I like him. But I'm not starting. I think he was a good ad. I don't think he's a safe start, though. And I think those things can be different. I think starts and ads and starts are much different. And I want to see it from Knight a little bit more. This could be his best opportunity because Michael Carter's out. He could be back next week. But Ty Johnson's going to mix in. James Robinson is going to mix in. And Knight is a very unknown commodity. He looked like the best running back on the team last week. That's why he was a good ad. But I don't think he's a must start. And I would start Pacheco and Dameon Pierce over him. Nico Collins or CeeDee Lamb. Come on, man. Luke, I like Nico Collins as a deep sleeper, man, but we're not starting him over CeeDee Lamb. We're not starting very many players over CeeDee Lamb. It's not a great matchup for him against the Colts, but you're still starting CeeDee with a lot of confidence. Rashad White or Devontae Smith. It's a good spot, guys, for Devontae Smith. I'm not going to hide it. He's dealing with an injury of his own, but it sounds like he's going to play. Obviously, A.J. Brown should get a lot of attention from the Titans in that revenge game. And Devontae Smith, yeah, he now has at least 8 targets in 4 of his last 5 games. And now he gets the Titans. And the Titans have been bottom 5 secondary for fantasy wide receivers all season. So, yeah, I'm okay going Devontae Smith in a lot of spots. Fournette or Kyron Williams. I'd go Fournette over Kyron. I want nothing to do with the Rams' backfield just in general. I do think Kyron can be started in some spots because he could get a lot of dump downs. But the Rams' offense is so bad, guys. Garrett Wilson, Pittman, or Juju. Let me pull up my wide receiver rankings again one more time here. By the way, we did smash on the Bills -4 spread. A lot of people were giving me heat about that on the Thursday live. I was at that game. Brutal result for the Pats, by the way. 2nd straight season now. The Bills have ended the Patriots season. I mean, just brutal all around for Pats fans. My wide receiver rankings are up on the screen right now. I don't have Michael Pittman in here in the top 15, and that was a conscious decision. I do think you got to start Garrett Wilson over him. I think you got to start Amari Cooper over him. I think you got to start Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, and Jamar Chase all over Michael Pittman this week. I'd play Garrett Wilson over Pittman and Juju for sure. Again, really good spot for Garrett Wilson. Over under today is 60 yards for Garrett Wilson. I wouldn't be surprised if he smashes past that either on just a few catches. He only had 5 catches last week, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm talking elite ceiling for Garrett Wilson. I think he really is in must-start territory rest of the season, and I'm not going to be surprised when we're drafting him in like the first 5 rounds of drafts next season. That's how good I think Garrett Wilson really is and can be. He was the number 1 receiver in my prospect model before the draft too. I mean, the dude is an elite talent. Fields or Burrow? Yeah, I'm going Burrow over Fields. He's just safer with the shoulder injury for Fields in a game that is supposed to be close with the Chiefs. Burrow could throw 4 touchdowns in this game. B-Rob or Pacheco? That one's definitely closer. Let me pull up the running back rankings again for this one. I've seen B-Rob and Pacheco in a lot of questions today. They're definitely a couple of tough guys to start. And for start and sit decision, I do have B-Rob ahead of Pacheco. Again, I'm a little nervous in general for Pacheco in this matchup specifically. The Bengals have been decent against the run. Pacheco hasn't caught many passes. He's 1 catch in his last 3 games. And Jerick McKinnon is active. And Ronald Jones, I think, is going to stay involved a little bit too. Pacheco's looked good. Don't get me wrong. I'm still happy to have Pacheco on my rosters, but I don't love him that much this week. And I am okay going B-Rob over him. Sky Moore or Burks? Yeah, got to go Burks over Sky Moore. I know Sky Moore's been mixing in a little bit more, but Burks, guys, has 3 straight games now with at least 6 targets. He's got back-to-back games with at least 70 yards. Sort of a big game for him, too, going up against A.J. Brown. A bold take for you today is that Treylon Burks is just as good as A.J. Brown today. GM, good morning, Sam. Happy Sunday. Good to see you, Kyle. Hope you had a great week. You as well. Coming off another L, but everyone has bad losing streaks. I don't give up. Love to hear that. Pick one for flex. Zay Jones, Thielen, Elijah Moore, or Zeke. DFS is DFS head-to-head. No, DFS was a tournament lineup. And, yeah, I would go Zay Jones over Thielen, over Elijah Moore, and over Zeke against the Lions. And, yeah, my DraftKings lineup here, this is not a head-to-head lineup. This is a tournament lineup. Though I do think this lineup has some legs in head-to-head. But I think in a head-to-head, contest, I'd probably play one of those rushing QBs closer to the top than Trevor Lawrence. So again, I do like Trevor Lawrence's floor. I do think this lineup's not terrible for head-to-head contests. The other thing in head-to-head contests, I usually like to flex running backs in head-to-heads because I do think their floors are just generally safer based on how they see their touches. So I might go like Isaiah Pacheco or someone like that in the flex there as well. Yards, my man, how's it going? Great to see you in the YouTube live again. Hope all is good. Start P-Ryan, Zay Jones, Peoples Jones. Yeah, man. Here we are. It's week 13, and look at the guys that we're deciding between. We grind all offseason, preparing ourselves for the draft just to come to week 13, and we're deciding between Samaje Perine, Zay Jones, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. And for people asking about Mixon being out, yeah, Mixon is likely out, but he's not officially out yet. And so that adds a pretty tough wrinkle. He's really like one of the last guys we're waiting for in the injury report today, and that game's not till later in the day. But he's expected to be ruled out. He's technically still in the concussion protocol. I think it's pretty unlikely he gets out today. So Perine is the best player out of these three. Absolutely. He's the safest one. I would play Zay Jones over Peoples-Jones as well. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been balling low-key this season. He's actually coming off one of his worst games of the season. With Deshaun back, I know a lot of people are excited about him. But I think in general, the safe approach outside of Amari Cooper, outside of Nick Chubb on the Browns is just like, guys, let's see how this Browns offense looks with Deshaun. We have no idea what it's going to look like. We've really not seen Deshaun playing it over a year and a half, maybe even closer to 2 years. I still think the Browns are going to be really run heavy too. So I'm not as bullish on Donovan Peoples-Jones becoming this like wide receiver 2 in fantasy as a lot of other people are. I'm okay going Perine, again, assuming Mixon doesn't play. If Mixon plays and we get that report before you have to decide about Zay Jones, then we're going Zay Jones for sure against the Lions. Is Evans a bench? Because we all know what happened when he played the Saints last time. No, I don't think Evans is a bench. Although I do think Marshawn Lattimore has a chance to come back this week. Do I start Brian Robinson or Pickens at my flex today? I would go Pickens against the Falcons over Brian Robinson this week. Hey, Sam Moreau or Conklin, also White, Zeke, or Pacheco. I think I have Moreau ahead of Conklin. I do. I have him one spot ahead of Conklin, but I'm not going to lie. I kind of like, I'm actually going to change this because I kind of like Conklin more straight up head to head versus Boston Moreau. Moreau really, he just hasn't shown us much. We've seen some good games out of Conklin. I also really like the matchup for Conklin against the Vikings. Revenge game for Tyler Conklin. On top of that, yeah, we're going Conklin. We're going Conklin over Moreau. Again, I like Taysom more than both of them. Just going through my tight end strategy this week, just really quick again. There's only 6 tight ends I have any faith in this week. It's Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Hawkinson, Muth, and Schultz. That's it. Only 6 tight ends I have any trust in. That's why I have Taysom Hill ranked 7th right after all those guys because I think his ceiling is just so much higher than the rest of the tight ends. Hayden Hurst, Gerald Everett, Tyler Conklin, Foster Moreau, Greg Dulcich, like all these guys could score. 0 points. So why not play the guy with the highest ceiling, which is Taysom Hill? DraftKings, Jared, I got you, man. Here's the DraftKings lineup. I've been honestly, I started the season really hot on the DraftKings lineups on the stream. I think we went like cashing 5 out of the first 6 weeks. We've been a little bit downhill since then. So looking to get back on track here with the DraftKings lineup. I'm stacking Trevor Lawrence with Christian Kirk. I'm playing David Andrews and Aaron Jones in a mini stack. I'm running it back with Amon-Ra against the Jaguars. I really like Amon-Ra's floor and ceiling in this game. I don't hate Nico Collins as a deeper flex play here as well with Brandon Cooks out. And yeah, I really like Garrett Wilson's ceiling as well. I'm playing the Seahawks against the Rams as well. Seahawks defense. Good morning, Sam. Pick one for flex. Tony Pollard, Christian Watson, Juju, Devontae Smith. Full point PPR, 5.100 yard bonus. That is a very interesting wrinkle to this one. And honestly, this is a tough one. I think all 4 of these guys have an opportunity to get this 100 yard bonus. I like all 3 of these guys though more than Christian Watson this week. I'm seeing a lot of why sit Christian Watson on the TikTok live. And again, the floor is low for Watson. He could easily go over 100 yards. The ceiling's pretty high, but the floor is low because he's probably not going to go over 4 catches. He doesn't have a game over 4 catches this whole season. Romeo Doubs is expected to return this week, and it's not necessarily a great matchup against the Bears. The Bears' run defense has been much worse than their pass defense. I really think I would bench Watson for Juju. I'd play Juju over Watson. I'd play Devontae Smith over Watson, and I'd play Tony Pollard over Watson. I think, though, the safest guy on this list, though, is Tony Pollard. It is Tony Pollard. He's a 10-point favorite against the Colts. If that happens, Tony Pollard could very easily clear 100 yards with just 15 touches in this game. He's one of the most efficient players in the NFL. I don't hate Devontae Smith either. I actually think I would go Devontae Smith over Juju. I really like the matchup for Devontae Smith against the Titans as well. I really like Jalen Hurts passing prop today. By the way, that is the free player prop of the day. I have not given that out yet. Again, I'd go Pollard though, over Devontae Smith. I like the Jalen Hurts passing prop. The Titans' run defense is pretty elite. Their front seven is solid. Their secondary, though, has been really weak. And this game is projected to be really, really close. The spread in this game The Eagles are only 4.5-point favorites. That's one of the smallest spreads they've had all season. Jalen Hurts has not hit this prop line a ton this year. Let me pull up the Jalen Hurts numbers really quickly here. But again, the Tennessee Titans secondary, they have been really bad against quarterbacks, against receivers this season, and they've been really, really good against the run. Just listen to this. I think there's only been two quarterbacks, only two quarterbacks this whole season that haven't cleared this prop line against the Titans. It was Daniel Jones in week 1, and he still had 188 passing yards in that game. And then it was Davis Mills back in week 8. He still had 150 yards passing. So the floor for Jalen Hurts in this game, I mean, to me, it's like 150 to 190 yards. That's like the floor. And the ceiling is really 300 plus passing yards. We've seen Joe Burrow crush this prop line. We saw Aaron Rodgers beat this prop line against the Titans. We saw Patrick Mahomes throw for 450 yards against the Titans. We saw Matt Ryan throw for 240 yards against the Titans. We saw Carson Wentz throw for 360. We saw Matt Ryan again throw for 350. We saw Derek Carr go over 300. We saw Josh Allen go over 300. I mean, the Titans have been torched, man. I really like Jalen Hurts in this game, even though he hasn't hit this prop line in 3 straight games. But he really still has plenty of games this season over this prop line. So I'm going Jalen Hurts over 220 passing yards today. I really like that one. Again, I think it's going to be a closer game than people expect. 4.5-point spread. Titans run defense really good, and the pass defense is really bad. I think they could really easily hit this prop. I think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are going to have pretty big days as well against the Titans. Dalvin Cook or Garrett Wilson, PPR Daniel. These are the questions we should be asking. This is how good Garrett Wilson is right now in fantasy football. Again, I really feel like he's a must start in most spots. And this proves it. The fact that we're thinking about him over Dalvin Cook shows that Garrett Wilson really should be started in most spots. Dalvin Cook, though, against the Jets against Garrett Wilson against the Vikings. I mean, the matchup for Garrett Wilson is better than the matchup for Dalvin Cook. I have a tough time, though, benching Dalvin. He's really seen a more elite workload than I think most people realize this season. Dalvin Cook last week, he played 90% of the snaps, his highest snap share of the season. And he had 22 carries and ran 20 routes. He had 26 touches, only 56 yards against the Pats. But yeah, I think I would go Dalvin over Garrett Wilson. As much as I love Garrett Wilson, I think Dalvin's a little bit safer and has a similar ceiling. Helped me win my game last week. Got you, man. Zay Jones or Miles Sanders PPR. Yeah, it's Zay Jones. It actually is Zay Jones over Miles Sanders for me. Zay Jones, his floor is not bad. I mean, we saw a ceiling game from him last week, but he gets the Lions this week. Definitely not a terrible spot for him against the Lions. He now has back-to-back games with at least 10 targets, and he's got at least 5 catches in I think 6 of his last 7 or something like that. Like, his floor is good. He's gotten at least 40 yards in 5 of his last 6. So yeah, I'm okay going Zay Jones. It's a really good matchup against the Lions. I think that might actually be a revenge game too. Why bench Christian Watson? Yeah, so the reason I'm benching Christian Watson is his floor is low. I mean, his floor is low. He's probably not going to have more than 4 catches in the game today. Guys, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. On the YouTube Live, you get my top 15 rankings, my top 15 positional rankings, every single position. Wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends. You got my picks against the spread, my DraftKings lineup, my favorite player prop of the day. Everything you could possibly need is right on the YouTube Live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. If I don't get your comment and you don't come to the YouTube Live, and the top 15 is not going to help you on the YouTube Live, maybe you're looking at guys outside the top 15, then go to the WalterPicks app in the iOS and Android app store. I've spent the last 3 years of my life helping build the WalterPicks app. It's available in the TikTok bio and the YouTube description, and it is completely free to download. It's the best way you could support me too. Is Joe Mixon playing, and should I start P-Rod? Joe Mixon is likely not playing, but it's not official yet. So you got to keep up to date on the news because that game's later in the day. But I do think P-Rod's going to start the game for the Bengals, and that makes him a must start. I have him at number 15 running back right now, assuming Mixon is out. All right, Laura and Jim Cooperman. Let's get to your question in the YouTube Live. PPR league. You need to start 2 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 flex. You got DeAndre Carter. You got Lazard. You got Pittman, Devontae Smith, Pacheco, Rashad White. Thanks. Yeah, so this one's Devontae Smith and Pittman. Those are the 2 receivers. And then the flex and running back, Pacheco and White. You bench everyone else. Lazard can't be trusted. Say for similar reasons to Christian Watson. I think Lazard's floor is a little higher than Watson's, but his ceiling is lower than Watson's. But guys, Romeo Doubs, again, he's likely returning this week. And the Bears' run defense is much worse than their pass defense. So I don't really want to start Lazard or Christian Watson this week for that reason. But the reason I'm benching Christian Watson overall is his floor. He doesn't have a game over 4 catches this whole season. Joe Mixon is likely going to be out today, but it's not official. That's why I didn't put it in the screenshot that you're seeing on TikTok and also the out list that I have on YouTube as well. All right, let's get to some more of these comments. I need some help. Deontay Johnson or Latavius. Yeah, you got to go Deontay, man. Don't trust Latavius Murray. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. If Deontay gets a good matchup this week against the Falcons. I know Deontay's been super disappointing for everybody this season, but I feel like I say this in every live. Deontay Johnson, he still doesn't get enough credit for how high his floor is. He's been one of the safest floor wide receivers in the history of fantasy football. Like, not even just this season. You go back the last 3 years, and you're only going to find 5 or 6 games over the last 3 years for Deontay Johnson that he has under 9 fantasy points. He's got a few of those this season, the most this season than he's had in his career since his rookie season. But yeah, you got to like Deontay Johnson. He's still seeing elite target volume. He had 8 targets last game. He's averaging 8.5 targets a game. That's the 8th highest targets per game in the NFL at the wide receiver position, at least. So yeah, you got to start Deontay against the Falcons. He has not scored a single touchdown this season. He's got by far the most targets without a touchdown in the NFL. He has red zone targets too. It's not like he's seeing no targets in the red zone. He actually has the 9th most red zone targets in the NFL, and he has 0 touchdowns. I mean, so tilting for Deontay Johnson this season. But you got to start Deontay over Latavius Murray for sure. Zay Jones or Ayuka, the bazooka. I'm okay going Zay Jones over Ayuk. A better matchup for Zay Jones than Ayuk. Not a horrible matchup for Ayuk, though, against the Dolphins. Hey, Sam, start Tua or Lawrence, thanks. Yeah, so let me pull my QB rankings again. I think the QB rankings, the QB decisions this week are actually super interesting. Because outside the top 4, really, and I feel pretty confident about these top 4 being the top 4, that's Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. I think the next 4 are really interesting to rank. Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Tua. I have Lawrence one spot ahead of Tua because it's a tough matchup for Tua. The 49ers defense has been good this season, but their run defense has been elite. I still think Tua could have a pretty big day. Obviously, Tua having a really elite season. He's been extremely accurate. A really good job getting the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who I still think are both must starts. But Lawrence against the Lions, Lawrence coming off, I think his best game of the season. He's had back-to-back games now over 20 fantasy points, and he gets a great spot against the Lions, man. I think Trevor Lawrence is startable over Tua. I have him one spot ahead of Tua in my personal rankings, but it's super close. I've seen some questions about Deshaun Watson in the TikTok live. Obviously, we're going to get some Deshaun Watson questions on this live. And yeah, guys, Deshaun is back. This is the week. He's playing the Texans in Houston. I still think, and I still don't really know why I feel this way. We'll come back to see if this was a rational or irrational take by me, but I still feel like it was a mistake by the NFL to make this his first game in Houston. I just got a bad feeling about it. But Deshaun Watson is the guy that everyone's got to be monitoring really closely for fantasy this week because it's going to have a huge impact potentially down the stretch. If Deshaun Watson is like anything like he was before, he missed the last year and a half, then he's going to be startable in fantasy moving forward. But yeah, I'm taking the more of the wait and see approach with Deshaun. I don't really want to start Donovan Peoples-Jones this week, but I would start Amari. I absolutely got to start Nick Chubb against the Texans too. And the other thing about Deshaun, I still think the Browns will be really run heavy. What do you think about Donovan Knight? Yeah, so I like Donovan Knight. I think he was a good ad. I think he's worth an ad in fantasy leagues if he's still out there. But I don't think he's a safe start. I really don't think he's a safe start. Ty Johnson's going to be involved. James Robinson probably going to have a chance to be involved here too. I think the floor is really, really low for Donovan Knight. We have him ranked number 31 in the WalterPicks app. I think I would play Isaiah Pacheco over him as well. We actually have Donovan Knight ahead of Pacheco this week. But yeah, I'm okay going Pacheco over Donovan Knight. I think Donovan Knight's like RB33, sort of around that range. I would play him over Kyron Williams, though, and I think you can play him over A.J. Dillon, too. I think between him and A.J. Dillon are close. Dillon's coming off, I think, his second best game of the season. He finally got in the end zone in his last game, and it's a good match for A.J. Dillon against the Bears. Maybe he could start to get a little hot down the stretch here. My best ball teams are certainly hoping for that. A.J. Dillon, 88 yards and a touchdown last week, but he only had 8 carries, only 3 catches, only 11 touches. I mean, that's not good. We're going to see probably more floor games from A.J. Dillon. So I'm okay going with Donovan Knight over Kyron and A.J. Dillon. And if it's a full PPR league, I think Kyron could be started over Knight. I think Kyron could get some dump offs, but I like Knight more than Kyron. And then Thielen or Palmer, you got to go Thielen, man. I know Palmer's been balling a little bit of connection there with Justin Herbert, but Thielen's coming off a really elite target volume in 2 of his last 3 games. He gets the Jets this week. I'm okay going Thielen over him in that situation. Hey, Sam, Jerry Jeudy or Zay Jones? You can't start Jeudy this week. I'd go Zay Jones. Pick up Marvin Jones. Yeah, you go Zay Jones over Marvin Jones as well. And then Pacheco or Gus Edwards in the flex. I'd go Pacheco over Gus. I think the projections probably, they might disagree with me on that one too. No, they don't. We have Pacheco just ahead of Gus. But yeah, I like Pacheco more than Gus. A higher scoring game. Gus does not catch passes. Pacheco doesn't either. But we saw last week, Gus Edwards scores a touchdown. He sees an elite 16 carries, and he still goes under 10 points because he doesn't catch passes. And Lamar's still a threat to steal that touchdown. He doesn't score that touchdown. He's under 6 points, 5 points. So yeah, I don't love Gus. I think his floor is really low, and I don't know how high his ceiling is, especially against a good Broncos defense. Hi Sam, please help. PPR, Knight, Christian Watson, Edwards. See, Joey, this one I would start Christian Watson. Again, I do have Christian Watson as a must bench on my must bench list this week, but I would start him over Gus Edwards, and I would start him over Zonovan Knight as well, because the ceiling is still there. The ceiling is still there for Christian Watson. The reason I'm benching him is his floor is so low because he doesn't have a game over 4 catches. So if he doesn't score a touchdown, doesn't have one of those big plays on those 4 catches, he's probably going to score like 6 fantasy points or less. Like that is a pretty low floor for Christian Watson, who's had 20 plus points in basically each of his last 3 games. Also, can you give a shout out to my son, Jackson, who loves your content? Yeah, shout out Jackson. Joey, thanks for tuning in the live. Shout out Jackson for being in the YouTube live as well. Seriously, guys, thanks everyone who's in this live stream right now. This is like my favorite time of the week. This is my favorite thing to do every single week. I love making content for all of you. I'm sad. I'm getting sad that the fantasy season's coming close to an end. But I'm excited, man, for the final stretch and to try to win some of my leagues as well and help you guys all win some of your leagues. All right, good morning to the man, the myth, the legend. A couple full PPR questions, Olave or Palmer? Yeah, I'm going Olave over Palmer for sure. Again, I know Palmer's been starting to establish a little bit of a connection with Herbert. I actually think it was DeAndre Carter was the guy last week you wanted over Josh Palmer. Mike Williams is going to be out again, so Palmer absolutely has some upside, but I like Olave much more. Olave is still top 5 in the NFL in air yards this season. He gets the Bucks this week. I'm okay going Olave on I think that's the Monday night game. A Swift or P-Rod. Yeah, so Swift, there's not been a more tough guy to have in fantasy, I don't think, this season than DeAndre Swift, because the talent is so elite with DeAndre Swift. I mean, really, he pops off the page with his efficiency metrics. I know I've had some weeks where I just was straight up wrong about Swift over Jamal. I've been playing him over Jamal too many weeks this season. Honestly, it's been one of the things I've probably been wrong the most about this year because it's tough, right? DeAndre Swift is pretty clearly, in my opinion, more talented than Jamal Williams. DeAndre Swift, guys, he's number 2 in the NFL in yards per touch. He's number 2 in the NFL in yards created per touch. He's extremely efficient in the passing game. He's actually still top 7 in the NFL in target share. So he's going to see some targets. He's making the most of his opportunities, but there's just not enough opportunities for Swift. If Joe Mixon's out, I'm starting P-Ryan over Swift. It feels gross coming out of my mouth, but I am doing that. Also, I'm season long. Are you cool with dropping Dolch for Conk? Appreciate you as always. Yeah, I'm okay dropping Dolch for Conklin. Again, let me run through my general thoughts on tight end because I think they're pretty straightforward this week. I have faith in the top 6: Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Hawkinson, Muth, and Schultz. I think you should feel pretty good about starting all 6 of those guys. I think they have a decent floor and a solid ceiling. After that, though, I mean, none of these guys have a safe floor. I mean, all of them could score 0 points. That's why I'm starting the next highest ceiling guy in Taysom Hill next. That's number 7 tight end for me this week. I think Taysom Hill has a higher ceiling than Conk, higher ceiling than Moreau, higher ceiling than Dolchich. And all these guys can definitely be dropped and interchanged as you see fit. But yeah, in general, I like Conklin. Revenge game for Conklin against the Vikings. That's kind of exciting. I like him a decent amount this week. I think I have Dolch maybe ranked ahead, but I'm okay playing Conklin over Dolch. Yo, Sam, Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, much love. Yo, Adrian, thanks for tuning in, man. Let me pull up my running back rankings here again. I actually think I do have JT 2 spots ahead of Travis Etienne. And JT, guys, he's really starting to save face a little bit this season. Obviously, he was the first overall pick in most fantasy drafts. I was taking CMC overall in PPR leagues, but he really disappointed for a long stretch this year. But now he's had 3 straight games as a top 13 running back in PPR formats. He's got 24 points, 16 points, and 18 points in his last 3. And he's had over a 95% snap share in 2 of those games. I mean, he's seeing some of the highest workloads in the league, one of the highest workloads in the league. He ran 30 routes last week, too. That was that season high, 30 routes. He only had 4 targets, but he's been more and more involved in the passing game, too. From Matt Ryan, he's got 3 straight games with at least 90 yards, 3 straight games with at least 1 touchdown. You're starting JT. Travis Etienne's foot injury does add a little bit more risk to him, too. I like Etienne against the Lions, of course. He's still top 13 running back for me, top 12 running back. I think he actually am at number 11. But yeah, you're starting JT, I think, in almost all spots. Ayo, Sam, please help. DK Metcalf, Debo, half PPR. Yeah, I'm a little nervous about Debo. He's tough to get a read on. I feel like he's sort of the wide receiver version of Swift a little bit this season, where we know Debo's one of the most talented receivers in the league. If I was ranking top 10 talented receivers, I think I would put Debo probably in the top 10. He's just such a beast after the catch, but only 3 catches last week. 2 weeks before that, he only had 2 catches. He had a good game in between there. I got one more coming. No, I'm good. I sneezing on live is always a roller coaster. But yeah, Debo is tough to trust. Is sort of what I was getting at there. I would play DK Metcalf over him. Moreau or Komet. I'm playing Moreau over Komet, but I mean, both guys are completely disgusting, and both guys could easily score 0 points. I would be playing Taysom Hill over both of them. If it ain't Walter. It's Sam the GOAT. 2 questions. Yeah, classic mistake. My name is Sam. Walter is the AI algorithm I helped build that powers the WalterPicks app in the iOS and Android app store. Check out the WalterPicks app, guys, if you haven't yet. It's completely free to download. If Jacobs misses, do I pivot to Pacheco or White? I'd pivot to White if Jacobs misses. And again, I don't think Jacobs is going to miss. It's a really similar situation to last week. But it's good to have a backup plan with Jacobs because there is a chance he misses. He is not confirmed in yet. He is testing it out pregame. So if his calf flares up in the pregame, I mean, you're going to have a backup option. So yeah, I like White as the backup option there. And then Weatherman Sam made an appearance today. No, Weatherman Sam made a big appearance, though, on Thursday night. I actually went to the Pats game. And if you guys saw that live stream right as the game was starting, I mean, the weather in that game was just so overblown, pun intended there. Like, everyone was talking about the wind bowl number 2. And there was literally no wind in that game, under 10 mile an hour of wind in that game. I was there. But there's a lot of dome games today. We got the Steelers and the Falcons playing in a dome. So no weather to be aware of in that game. Jaguars Lions in a dome. Jets Vikings in a dome. Seahawks Rams in a dome. And the Chargers Raiders in a dome. That's 5 dome games. And then no other games have any rain. No rain today. No precipitation today. And there's really not that much wind either. The windiest games look like the Packers-Bears game, but only 12 miles an hour of wind. It's a 30-degree day. There's not even any really cold weather. I mean, weather should not be an impact today. That is the bottom line. There's 0 games I'm concerned about the weather. I don't think we're going to see a drop of rain, and I really don't think we're going to see any impactful wind or cold today. And again, a lot of dome games as well, which obviously comes with a lot of safety. So yeah, no weather to be concerned about today. That's the report from Weatherman Sam. Why bench Tua? Yeah, so I just have Tua a little bit lower in general in my rankings this week because of the matchup against the 49ers. I think he's more of a fringe bench, though. I'll go through my quarterback rankings one more time. Again, you come to the YouTube live, you're watching live on TikTok, you can see my top 15 rankings, every single position. I do still have Tua inside the top 10 this week. So maybe putting him as a must bench was a little bit of a stretch there, but I think there's some quarterbacks you absolutely can start over Tua this week, like Trevor Lawrence. Hey, Sam, Swift, White, or Zeke, PPR. I think it goes White, then Zeke, then Swift. And I'm still just waiting. I'm just waiting like the rest of you for the big Swift week. I won't be surprised when it comes because he's that good. He just needs to play more. But I don't have a confidence he's going to play more. We've seen so many weeks in a row with Swift under a 40% snap share. I mean, Justin Jackson, for God's sakes, is getting snaps over DeAndre Swift. He's not playing more than him, but he's stealing some of these crucial DeAndre Swift reps. So I don't feel like DeAndre Swift is a must start, but I won't be surprised when he has a massive, huge week because he's that good. Again, he's number 2 in the NFL in yards per touch. Yeah, but I would rank these guys as White, then Zeke. Someone asked for the wide receiver rankings. Let me pull the QB rankings in a second too here. And yeah, so the reason I have Tua as a must bench is because I have Trevor Lawrence ranked ahead of him. So here are the quarterbacks I'd play over Tua: Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, and Trevor Lawrence. I'm not playing Deshaun over Tua. I'm not playing Dak over Tua. I'm not playing Tom, Gino, Jimmy G, Mariota, Derek Carr. I'm not playing those guys over Tua still. But it's not a great matchup for Tua. Hey, Sam, pick 2. Zonovan Knight, Rashad White, Leonard Fournette. Yeah, so I'm okay just going with both of these Buccaneers running backs, especially if you are in a matchup you feel good about your odds in. Then the safe route here is just going White in Fournette. It lowers your ceiling a little bit, but it's the safer route. If you feel like you're a big underdog in this game, though, I'd go Rashad White and Zonovan Knight. I'd go with White and Knight, and I'd bench Fournette. I do like White more than Fournette. I would play White straight up over Fournette in this game. I know it's one spot only, but Samaje in front of Kamara, great receiving back and gets 15 carries a game. Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough for me to put Samaje Perine over Alvin Kamara. Like, I don't think I have it in me. I really don't think I have it in me. And I think there is a case. I agree with you. There's a case to make for Perine over Kamara. I mean, the workload for Perine could very well be better than Kamara's. Alvin Kamara has been trending really down. He's not going to play as many snaps as Perine. He's probably not going to see as many carries or targets as Perine. But I mean, Kamara is just so much better. He's still just so much better in my eyes than Samaje Perine on a pure talent basis. I'm willing to play Kamara over Perine. But yeah, I get the argument here that Perine could be a better start. God, here we are in week 13. But yeah, I'm personally playing Kamara over Perine. Chubb over Jacobs. I have no replacement if Jacobs sits. No, I don't think I would do this. I think Jacobs is going to play, and it's a good matchup for Jacobs. But you got to start Nick Chubb too. You really have to start Nick Chubb This is one of the most efficient running backs in the league, maybe the most efficient running back in the NFL over the last 3 years. If you're going to span out, I don't think you could argue a guy that's been more efficient than Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, again this year, top 5 in the league in yards created. He's averaging 5.2 yards per carry, which is actually a down year for him. He's evaded the most tackles in the NFL. He's averaging almost 10 evaded tackles per game, and he gets the Texans. And I do think that the Browns will continue to lean on the run, even with Deshaun back. They're going to run right over the Texans. And Nick Chubb's coming off one of his better games of the season. He had a season high 26 carries last week against the Bucs, one of the best run defenses in the league. 132 yards, 20 points. He was a top 10 running back against the Bucs. And now he gets the Texans. So yeah, you got to start Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs. You got to start Josh Jacobs too. I think Josh Jacobs is playing, and I like Jacobs more in PPR formats because he catches more passes. I have Jacobs as my number 2 running back this week. I have Nick Chubb as my number 10 running back, but I think you could make a case that he has top 5 upside for sure and a really safe floor. All right, let me pull up one more time here the player prop of the day, which is Jalen Hurts over 219.5 passing yards. Really like this one. We're getting a report here in the YouTube live that Mixon is officially out. Debo will officially play, by the way. I'm seeing that here. I'm not seeing the Mixon officially out anywhere, but I'm sure I'll see it soon if this is legit. But I do think he's likely going to be out. Again, I haven't seen that he's officially out yet, but I do think it's likely that he's out and he's not going to clear the concussion protocol. But yeah, I'm not seeing this here. Zonovan Knight, Robert Saleh said the team will have a backfield by committee with Michael Carter not expected to play. It's going to be Zonovan Knight, Ty Johnson, and James Robinson. Courtland Sutton, who's dealing with a little bit of an illness, he is expected to play. There's optimism. Josh Jacobs plays. Michael Gallup is expected to play this week as well. I'm not seeing the report that Joe Mixon is officially out yet, but again, I think it's safe to assume he's out. I do think it's safe to assume that he's out. Hi, Sam. Jeff Wilson or Najee Harris? Yeah, I'm going Najee over Jeff. Revenge game for Jeff, but it's a tough matchup for Jeff Wilson against his former team, the 49ers, who've been top 5 against running backs this season. Sam, Jadon Williams. That's not a real person. I'm assuming you mean Jameson Williams. Traylon Burks, Knight or Ayuk. Choose to PPR. Yeah, I'd go Traylon Burks. And I think I'd go Ayuk too, overnight. I think I'd go Burks and Ayuk here. Jameson Williams, he can't be started. Let me pull up my wide receiver rankings here on the YouTube live. Someone asked him for those. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. Top 15 rankings. Every position is on the YouTube live, completely free, right in the TikTok bio. Why are we benching Christian Watson? Yeah, so I'll get to that in a second as well. Again, let's get to the Christian Watson stuff. I blanked on what I lost my train of thought there for a second. But the reason I'm benching Christian Watson in most situations, not all situations, but most situations, his floor is low, guys. His floor is just straight up low. He has no games over 4 catches this whole season. He is a copy and paste prototype of Gabriel Davis. He's like a faster, younger Gabriel Davis, but in a worse offensive situation. So if Christian Watson doesn't have a big catch in those 4 catches, he's probably going to go under 6 fantasy points. He's scored 6 touchdowns in his last 12 catches. I mean, he is not going to score in half of his catches unless he's, again, a copy and paste of Gabriel Davis. Even Gabe Davis isn't scoring on half of his catches, and he leads the league, I think, in touchdown rate. So, yeah, you gotta be cautious, I think, with Christian Watson this week against the Bears. The Bears are a run funnel defense. The Packers are going to run the ball in this game against a bad Bears run defense. Romeo Doubs also supposed to return in this game. I really just think Christian Watson's floor is low. The ceiling is still high for Christian Watson. So he can be started over some other sketchy guys, but I'm not starting him over guys in good matchups that are going to see more than 4 catches. Pacheco or Knight. Yeah, I'd go Pacheco over Knight. Do I start Schultz or Burks or Kyron Williams? I'd go Burks over all those guys. You ever watch Rodgers play the Bears? LOL. I have watched Rodgers play against the Bears. Yes, indeed I have. Obviously, that usually goes pretty well for Rodgers, but this has not been a normal Aaron Rodgers season. So let's be cognizant of that as well. This also is a Bears defense that has been horrible, and I mean horrible, against the run. They're bottom 5 in the NFL against the run. We saw Zonovan Knight and Ty Johnson both go over 60 yards against them last week. We saw Tyler Algier, Cordero Patterson on very limited touches go over 50 rushing yards the week before that. They're really a bad run defense, so I think the Packers are going to try to run a lot in this game. We have seen Aaron Rodgers play this Packers defense earlier this season, back in week 2. It was actually one of Rodgers' better games, but he only had 16 fantasy points in that game. He only 234 yards in that game. I don't love Watson. I agree he has a high ceiling. I don't think this is the best matchup and situation for him. All right. Help. I have to go soon. Swift, P. Ryan, Mixon's out. Yeah, it's P. Ryan. It's P. Ryan over Swift It's Pirine over Pacheco. Can you show QB rankings? Yeah, I got you with the QB rankings in the YouTube live. Debo out. No, Debo is actually projected to be in today. He's expected to play today. Joe Mixon is expected to be out, though. And Josh Jacobs is expected to be in as well. Komet or Moreau, I would go Moreau over Komet. I got my QB rankings up on the YouTube live right now. I saw a QB question that could be answered in the TikTok live. Again, come to the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. You're like 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube live. And you just get more info on the YouTube live. And it's the same. It's a better viewing experience than the TikTok live. So come there. It's also a little bit easier for me to pull up your comments in the YouTube live. Again, link is right in the TikTok bio. But yeah, I have my top 15 QBs up on the YouTube live right now. And I'm playing Mahomes over everybody, then Jalen Hurts, then Justin Herbert, then Joe Burrow. You're not playing Lamar over Joe Burrow. You're not playing Fields over Joe Burrow. You're not playing Trevor Lawrence over Joe Burrow. You got to start Joe Burrow. This is projected to be a close game. Repeat of the AFC Championship game where the Chiefs completely blew their chances at a Super Bowl. I do think the Chiefs would have won the Super Bowl over the Rams. And they were up by multiple scores. I think in that game at halftime, actually, Tyreek Hill should have scored in his last game with the Chiefs at halftime. They didn't score, and they ended up blowing the game in the second half. A really interesting matchup, rematch here between the Bengals and the Chiefs. But yeah, projected to be a close game. I think the spread was only a couple of points. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, the Chiefs are only 2-point favorites. You got to start Joe Burrow in a close game against the Chiefs. We know these games with the Chiefs, similar with the Bills, if they're close games, like you can really see some insane offensive days in these games because the Chiefs are going to keep throwing. They're going to keep throwing in close games. They're going to stay very aggressive. And you can say a similar thing about the Bengals. You want pieces of this game. I think Pacheco is my least favorite piece of the game, but he's not terrible. If you really need a running back, he has seen 15-plus carries in his last couple of games. But the Bengals' run defense is much better than the run defenses Pacheco's been up against his last few games. So I don't think Pacheco's a must start. But you're definitely starting Juju. I think you're starting Mahomes for sure. You're obviously starting Kelsey. I think you can definitely start a Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Samaje Perine. All those guys can be started. If you're desperate at tight end, I don't hate Hayden Hurst either. Deshaun Watson or Justin Fields. I'm playing Fields over Deshaun. I got my QB rankings here up. I have Deshaun at number 9. I will admit, I'll be very transparent about this. I don't want to root for Deshaun. I'm not a huge Deshaun defender here. And I think that might be factored in a little bit to my rankings here. But also, I do think you remove all the Deshaun narrative, whether or not you want to root for Deshaun or not. And again, I don't want to root for him. But whether or not you want to root for him or not, there's some risk with Deshaun, just from a fantasy perspective. He hasn't played in a year and a half. And they're playing the Texans, the worst run defense in the league. And they're one of the best running offenses in the league with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So I think they could still be really run heavy in this game, ease Deshaun Watson back in. I think he's pretty risky from a fantasy perspective for that reason. But you got to watch this game really closely and see how Deshaun looks, because Deshaun was a top 5 QB in the NFL before everything went down, before he stopped playing for the last year and a half. He could easily return to top 5 status, I think, quicker than people might expect. So keep an eye on the Deshaun stuff, but I don't think this is the best week to be starting Deshaun. Kamara, Walker, ETN, you got to bench Kamara over Walker and ETN. I have Walker ranked ahead both of them, though, because the Seahawks are playing the Rams. The Rams without Matt Stafford. The Rams without Cooper Kupp. The Rams without Allen Robinson. The Rams without Aaron Donald. I mean, the Rams could be the worst team in the league. Like, they're close. They're a bottom 5 team in the league right now. The Seahawks are 7-point favorites in this game. You got to love Kenneth Walker as a 7-point favorite. Hey, Sam. Walter Godwin, I've been here for 30 minutes. Thanks, Hunter, for sticking around, man. I'll pull up the wide receiver rankings here again. This is not an easy choice. I actually went back and forth for a while about the Waddle ranking this week, because I feel like Waddle really, he should be in the top 10 every single week, but there's a lot of guys I really like this week, and Chris Godwin's one of them against the Saints. Chris Godwin has been so involved. He's finally found the end zone. He took a while to do that this season. He now has back-to-back games with touchdowns. He had 13 targets last week. He caught 12 of those. He was the number 2 receiver in fantasy and PPR formats last week. I kind of feel like you got to go Godwin with this insane target volume over Waddle. It's not easy to bench Waddle, though, man. It's absolutely not easy. He's a top 12 wide receiver, despite matchup every given week. And it's never easy to bench him. I would try to start both these guys, but I'm okay. I do have Godwin ranked ahead of Waddle in my rankings. I'm playing against him, but wondering why Mike Evans isn't in your top 15. And yeah, he was a guy that him and I think Tyler Lockett didn't make it on there this week too. I went with Metcalf over Tyler Lockett, I think. Here, let me actually pull up the running back rankings here. Yeah, I have Jamar Chase in there over Tyler Lockett, over Mike Evans. I have Garrett Wilson over Mike Evans. I have DK Metcalf over Mike Evans. I have Mark Cooper over Mike Evans. There's no one in this top 15 that I would rank it Mike Evans over. And I feel like Chris Godwin, his target volume makes him better than Mike Evans too. I still think Mike Evans is a top 20, top 25 receiver for sure. I think he's must start in most spots. He only had 2 catches last week, but he still had 9 targets, still played 94% of the snaps. It ended up being a Chris Godwin game. He did really bad last time out against the Saints. Marshawn Lattimore in that game, I think he ended up getting kicked out of that game. He only had 3 catches, 61 yards. But I'm still starting Mike Evans in most spots. He's just not a top 15 receiver for me. There's a lot of good receivers, especially with Garrett Wilson heating up. He gets a matchup against the Vikings. I'm not playing Mike Evans over Christian Kirk against the Lions. And again, Amari Cooper, maybe you can make a case for Mike Evans over Amari Cooper. But I really like how Amari's looked this season. And with Deshaun back, I think his ceiling's pretty high. All right. Alvin Kamara, Pittman. Yeah, so speaking of guys that have been really tough to trust in fantasy, I mean, how about Alvin Kamara, who's been one of the best fantasy assets over the last 3 years. I mean, he's been just insanely consistent throughout his career. And this season has just not been as much of the case. He's slowing down, it feels like, a little bit, but I'm still bought into the talent of Alvin Kamara. He's now gone under 10 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games and hasn't gone over 15 points since week 8. Back in week 8, he had 3 touchdowns in that game, 42 points. That week, he had 9 catches in that game. So he goes from, one of the best weeks of the season to 4 straight games under 15 points, has not been a top 30 running back. Has not been a top 20 running back in any game since then. So this is a real question here between Alvin Kamara and Michael Pittman. Obviously, Pittman's starting to heat up. We have Kamara projected for 14.5 PPR points, though. Michael Pittman's down at 14. So, yeah, it's close. It's super close. We have half a point projection better for Kamara than Pittman in a PPR format. I'm going Kamara over Pittman, personally, but it's definitely close. Sam, help Pacheco, Swift, or Deontay PPR. It's Deontay. I really think it's Deontay. I think Deontay's floor is really good. Again, he's been over 9 points in basically all but 6 games over the last 3 years. I mean, he really has a safe floor. He's averaging 8.5 targets per game. That's top 10 in the NFL. And he gets the Falcons this week. He hasn't scored a single touchdown. It's only a matter of time, guys, for Deontay to find the end zone. He's top 10 in the NFL in red zone targets. And he's no touchdowns. So it's just insane run for Deontay Johnson not finding the end zone. Good morning, Sam. Hope your morning is going well. It's going great, man. It's really exciting. Exciting game of slates today. I have Cook and Piran at RB and Jamal Williams at flex. Kamara and White on the bench. Oh, God, yeah. I'm starting Kamara over Jamal still. Hey, Sam, I went back and looked at my record before and after my WalterPicks subscription. Win percentage went from 56 to 78. I mean, what a good what's the word I'm looking for? I can't find it. Review, I guess, for the app right here, Ryan. Love to hear this. Seriously, I've spent my last 3 years building this app. And Ryan, I'm actually really excited for next season already and all the improvements we're going to make in the WalterPicks app. There's so much more to build out to make sure everyone's dominating their fantasy decisions. So I'd love to see this, Ryan. Thanks for tuning in live again, man. Which 3 do you like better this week? Garrett Wilson, Lockett, Evans, or Diggs? Zay Jones, Samaje. Diggs already played. And I would have said Diggs. You had to start Diggs every single week. But Diggs already played. He had 22 points against the Pats. Domination against the Pats. Then I think it's Garrett Wilson next. If you pull my wide receiver rankings, they're on the screen still. I have Garrett Wilson ranked number 12 or 13. I think he's at 13. I have him ahead of Lockett. But I'd say probably Garrett Wilson, then Lockett, then Evans, then Samaje, then Zay Jones. I think that's how I would rank these guys. But which 3 do I like better? Yeah, so it's Garrett Wilson, Lockett, Evans. I'd play Garrett Wilson, Lockett, Evans. Olave or White? I think I would go Olave over White. It's super close. I think White's floor is a little bit better. Let me actually pull up the projections here because I'm interested to see how close they are. They're probably pretty close in our projections in the WalterPicks app. Again, you can download that app completely free on the iOS and Android app store. Link is in the TikTok bio. Link is in the YouTube description. And again, yeah, we have Rashad White. Yeah, you got to go Olave. You got to go Olave. We have Rashad White projected for 12 PPR points, and Olave's at 12.7. So again, really close. But yeah, I like Olave. I think I would go Olave. I think his ceiling's higher. Higbee, Schultz, Everett, or Kirst. Pick one. It's Schultz. It's got to be Schultz. It has to be Schultz. Again, let me pull my tight end rankings. The top 6 tight ends are in their own tier this week. Obviously, Kelsey really is. He's in his own tier. Andrews maybe in his own tier as well. Then Kittle, Hawkinson, Muth, Schultz, I think are all sort of in one tier. Maybe Kittle has a little higher of a ceiling, but all those guys, I feel really good about them. I feel really good about those top 6 tight ends. Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Hawk, Muth, and Schultz. After that, man, I have no faith in any of these tight ends. And that's why I have Taysom Hill ranked number 7, because I think he's a higher ceiling than everybody else after those top 6. Deontay Johnson or Rashad White. That one's close. I think it is Rachaad White over Deontay Johnson, though. Good morning, Sam. Hope your Sunday is going great. Do I start Fields, Watson, or Rodgers? It's Fields. It's Fields, Michael. There's some more risk to Fields this week. Obviously, he had that shoulder injury that made him miss last week. I still have Fields ranked at number 6 this week, though. And his rushing prop, guys, his rushing prop on Underdog. I mean, I was pretty surprised, honestly, when I saw this, but his over-under rushing, 67.5 rushing yards is the over-under for Fields. I'm a little pessimistic about his rushing. I think the shoulder injury could limit his rushing more than we've seen in the past. But yeah, I mean, he's gone over 60 rushing yards in 6 straight games. He's got at least 45 rushing yards in 8 straight games. I mean, his floor in terms of rushing, if he's going to continue to run the ball like this, is really high. That's why he's got to be in your top 10 quarterbacks this week, and why he should be started over Watson and over Rodgers. Another guy that I like, who also runs the ball a lot, but for a different reason this week, is Jalen Hurts. Over 220 passing yards. I have him as my number 2 QB this week. I think this line is simply too low. Only 2 quarterbacks this whole season have failed to hit this prop line against the Titans. And it was Daniel Jones. And I forget who the second quarterback was. I think I have it up here. It was Daniel Jones back in like week 1. And who was the other quarterback? And Davis Mills. It was Daniel Jones and Davis Mills, the only 2 QBs to not go over 220 passing yards against the Titans. A.J. Brown revenge game. Devontae Smith, he was dealing with an injury, but he's playing. So yeah, I do like Jalen Hurts over 220 passing yards, a decent amount today. Hey, Sam, what do you think? Cordero or Pollard, half PPR? I've been following your advice every week on this week. It's working so far. Thanks, man. Yona, appreciate you tuning in. And yeah, I would go Pollard over Cordero. Pollard is a 10-point favorite against the Colts. 10-point favorite against the Colts. That should mean 15-plus touches for one of the most efficient running backs in the league, even with Zeke healthy. JT for Colts or Miles Sanders for Eagles? Please, I've been here for 45 minutes. Yeah, Matt, it's got to be JT, man. It's got to be JT. Let me pull my running back rankings again. But Sanders is not in my top 15 running backs this week. Sanders, he's coming off a really good game, but it was a really good matchup for him last week. Not as good of a matchup for him this week against the Titans. Titans' run defense has been elite, top 5 against running backs this season. The Colts get the Cowboys. Their defense has been pretty elite too. But the usage for JT, man, has been so good, and he's running a lot of routes. Like JT could catch 5 catches any given week with this usage. That's huge. You cannot say the same as about Miles Sanders. He will not have a game with 5 catches this season. So yeah, you got to go JT. Pick 2, Godwin, Dameon Pierce, or Jamal Williams. I've been here so long, Sam. Matt, thanks for sticking around, man. All of you guys, I'll try to get to as many comments as I can. I really try to get to as many as I can. But again, if I can't get to yours, go to the WalterPicks app in the iOS and Android App Store, free to download, and it's going to also take into account your custom settings. Godwin, Dameon, yeah, it's got to be Godwin. Got to be Godwin here over Dameon Pierce, over Jamal. I've Godwin as my number 8 wide receiver this week. He had 12 catches last week, guys. 12 catches. There's very few receivers that can do that. An app user since day 1, James, man, shout out to you. Love everything about it. Thanks, man. Yeah, again, if you haven't checked out the WalterPicks app, guys, iOS and Android App Store, link is in the TikTok bio, link is in the YouTube description, free to download. It's going to help you with most of the comments I'm seeing, the app can help with. Non-PPR, Christian Watson versus Corey Davis. Yeah, James, I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, I think, with this one. I've seen a lot of TikTok comments today. Probably the most common TikTok comment today, because I have on the TikTok live, I have Christian Watson up as a must bench. Everyone's like, why is Christian Watson must bench? It's because his floor, it's really low. The floor is low for Christian Watson. Let me pull up what his actual prop line is today. I wouldn't hate the under. Yeah, 47.5 receiving yards is the line for Watson, and Corey Davis is lower, 36.5. So 10 yards lower for Corey Davis. The matchup for Corey Davis is absolutely better, though. He gets the Vikings' bottom 3 secondary against receivers this season. Corey Davis, low-key, pretty clearly the number 2 receiver for the Jets. He played close to 80% of the snaps last week. Elijah Moore was the guy that ended up having a couple big catches. Sorry, he played 70% of the snaps. And the Vikings have really struggled stopping outside receivers. I think Corey Davis could have a really interesting ceiling today. I still think, though, Christian Watson is probably the better start. Again, just looking at those prop lines, 10-yard difference there between Christian Watson and Corey Davis. I think Corey Davis is absolutely in play in a non-PPR league. But yeah, I think I would go Christian Watson. I still feel like the opportunity for a touchdown probably a little higher for Christian Watson. But overall, the reason I'm benching Christian Watson in most spots, again, I'd play him over Corey Davis. But most of the reason is he doesn't have a game over 4 catches. Not a great matchup for him. Romeo Doubs likely returning. I think the floor is pretty low, but the floor is low for Corey Davis as well. I'm okay going that. Thoughts on Jameson Williams for this week and next, and where's Pierce in your RB rankings? Yeah, so I have Dameon Pierce ranked at, let's see here. He's right after Tony Pollard. He's like right outside the top 15. I think I put Alvin Kamara over him in my top 15, but he's in the top 20. Dameon Pierce is a top 20 running back still this week. Not a horrible matchup for him against the Browns. The Browns have not been good against running backs this season. They've been really bad, actually. Bottom 5 against running backs this season. And thoughts on Jameson Williams, man? I don't know if there's a person out there more excited for Jameson Williams to come back. I feel like I've been talking about Jameson Williams for the last 6 months, basically. I was drafting him in best ball leagues, literally in May. I have him on so many of my best ball teams that are in the hunt still. And now he's back. I wouldn't start him this week. I do think he has a really big play potential, and like he could have a touchdown and a long catch in his first game back. Like, I think Jameson Williams is a very elite talent. Jameson Williams, I was very bullish on this receiver class from the get-go. I know a lot of people were. I was not alone in that. But Jameson Williams, he could be the best receiver in this class, guys. We've seen some good receivers already in this class. We got Christian Watson balling out. We got Traylon Burks having a low-key breakout. Obviously, Garrett Wilson, I think he's a must-start. He can't be benched. Drake London, he's been pretty disappointing, but I still think he is pretty good. I think I'm missing even a couple of the other rookies. But guys, Jameson Williams, he really might be the best rookie receiver in this class. He is not going to play a ton today, I don't think. He's only 21 years old. Guys, he has 99th percentile speed. My comp for Jameson Williams coming out of the draft was that he could be a better version of Mike Wallace. And Mike Wallace might be a little too old for some of you guys to remember, but he was a huge deep threat for Big Ben. Really, really fast. I think Jameson Williams could be a better version of that. I'm just very excited for Jameson Williams, man. And I hope he can get up to full speed by the fantasy playoffs, because I also drafted him in every single season-long league because I thought he was a free square this season. He was going in the last round of drafts, and I got to stash him on my IR all season. He could really win leagues, I think, Jameson Williams. And I'm also not very worried for Amon-Ra. I still think he'll get his. With Mixon out, start 2 between P. Ryan, Saquon, and Monty. Yeah, it's got to be these first 2. I'm playing both these guys over P. Ryan. Let me pull up my running back rankings again. Oh, they're actually already up. It feels weird, by the way, having Saquon ranked all the way down at 7. He's been a little bit worse in his last couple of games. I would play Kenneth Walker, and I'd play David Montgomery over Saquon. Feels weird saying that as well. But D-Mont is really seeing a huge workload, and it's a really good matchup against the Packers. All right, let's get a quick update on the news here. It is 11:30. We've got about an hour left in this stream. Want to make sure we haven't missed any important news. We should get some big news coming out over the next few hours or so, but there's really not a ton of news we're worried about other than the Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs stuff. We got to stay on top of that too. But I think Jacobs is playing and Mixon's going to be out. That's where I feel comfortable standing right now. Similar situation for Jacobs as last week, calf injury. We did get just a report here from ESPN. Dan Graziano reports Joe Mixon is highly unlikely to play week 13. So they're still not officially ruling him out, but he's not going to play, guys. I don't think Joe Mixon's going to play. You can fire up Samaje Perine with confidence, with as much confidence as you can with a guy like Samaje Perine, I guess. But I have him as my number 15 running back. He's going to see a good workload. He played 80% of the snaps last game. He's had back-to-back games with touchdowns. He's seeing targets. It is a game that's going to be close against the Chiefs, high-scoring game. It's okay to start Samaje Perine over a lot of guys this week. Good morning, Sam. Evans, Kirk, Watson. Pick one, and Pollard or ETN standard. Yeah, I'm playing ETN over Pollard standard. It's close. I feel like standard makes it closer. Pollard against the Colts, 10-point favorite against the Colts, but ETN gets a great matchup against the Lions. I'd play ETN, I think, over Pollard still. And then I think it's Christian Kirk, man, over Mike Evans, over Christian Watson. It's a great matchup for Christian Kirk, too. I don't really love starting Kirk and ETN, but I'm fine with it, man, against the Lions. If there's any week to do it, it's this week. I'm starting Kirk and ETN. Hey, Sam, pick one. Kamara, Rachaad White, Garrett Wilson. Full PPR. It's Garrett Wilson. It's Garrett Wilson over Kamara. I really feel that you can't bench Garrett Wilson in most spots. We saw his ceiling last week. His ceiling on only 5 catches, 95 yards, 2 TDs. Garrett Wilson, if there's one receiver that I'd probably argue for being better than Jameson Williams in this class right now, and I actually had Garrett Wilson ranked as my number 1 prospect in this class ahead of the draft, it's Garrett Wilson over Jameson Williams and over Traylon Burks, over Christian Watson. Garrett Wilson, guys, is an absolute stud. I'm not sure the general public has fully realized it yet, but Garrett Wilson's going to be an elite talent in this league for a very long time. He had 8 targets last week from Mike White. He turned that into 5 catches, 95 yards, 2 TDs, and he gets a really good spot against the Vikings. The Vikings have really struggled stopping outside receivers this season. He's going to play close to 80% plus of the snaps. He could be out there every single snap. We've seen a 100% snap share game from him just a couple weeks ago against the Pats. So yeah, you got to start Garrett Wilson, man. You got to start Garrett Wilson. What's good, bro? Ike, what's good, man? Start Traylon Burks, Debo, Chark, Thielen, full PPR. Yeah, it's between these first 2 guys. And I really do feel like Debo is getting close to Alvin Kamara type situation where, like, we know Debo's a really elite talent. Like, I would rank him as a top 10 talented receiver in the league. I know there's a lot of talented receivers in the league. But Debo's so talented. But Traylon Burks is I think maybe a slightly better option. Burks is over under 46.5. Debo doesn't even have a line because he's questionable for this game. I think Burks honestly is a little bit safer than Debo. I'm okay going Debo though too. Let me actually pull up the receiver rankings here. Let's see where we have these guys in the rankings. As before I give you a final answer here, we have Debo ranked. Yeah, you got to go Debo. You got to go Debo. You got to go Debo. There's no way around it. He's too talented. We still have him ranked pretty high. He's at number 13 in our PPR rankings in the WalterPicks app. I have him outside my top 15 here because of the injury concerns. But yeah, you got to play Debo over Burks. You got to play Debo over Bam Knight too. Jackson, you got to play Debo over Bam Knight. You're not playing Bam Knight over Debo. I get the hype around Bam Knight. I thought he was a good ad. I added him in some leagues too, but I don't think he's as good of a start as he was as good of an ad. Like, he's worth an ad. Let's see how he looks, though. He's going to be splitting touches with Ty Johnson and James Robinson. I think he's going to be better than both those guys. But he has a low floor. We've only really seen him play one game, and he was an undrafted rookie. Rachaad White, Najee Harris, George Pickens. Sam, you're the best. Wade, I got you, man. And Najee's in a tough start-sit spot this week, too. I think we have him ranked, though. Yeah, we do still have him ahead of Rachaad White. I think I would go Najee. If Najee's playing, I think I would go Najee over George Pickens, too. It's a good spot for Pickens, but Najee's workload is pretty locked in. Jalen Warren's supposed to play this week. That's a little sketchy, too, for Najee, but Najee was really heating up before his injury. Watson, Lockett, Burks, or Pickens? It's Lockett. It's got to be Lockett. Over Christian Watson, over Traylon Burks, over George Pickens. Overall, the rookies got to start Lockett. Hey, Sam, Mixon unlikely to play is screwing me. So Paris Campbell, Gus Edwards, Donovan Knight in the flex. Yeah, Jared, I mean, this is brutal, man. A step down from Mixon to these guys is, I mean, you're dropping like 5 to 6 tiers here, but you got to choose someone. And hopefully they can make up for it. And also hopefully Mixon can come back healthy and help you get to the fantasy playoffs and win in the fantasy playoffs. But it's not Gus Edwards here, man. It's between Campbell and Donovan Knight. The Colts, pretty big underdogs today. I think I would go Donovan Knight, though, over Paris Campbell. This is one of the few spots I'm going to say Knight. But yeah, I think I would go Donovan Knight against the Vikings over Paris Campbell here. Paris Campbell gets the Cowboys. They've been pretty good on defense. They've been worse against running backs than receivers, too. I'm okay going Donovan Knight over Paris Campbell. And I'm not starting Gus Edwards. Wilson or Cook. It's got to be Dalvin Cook over Jeff Wilson. Tom Brady or Tua. Let me pull my QB rankings one more time here on the YouTube live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. I've seen so many Juju or Christian Watson, a Tua or Kirk. Like, I'm seeing these comments in the TikTok live that if you just came to the YouTube live, like, you're 2 presses of the finger away. It's right in the TikTok bio, and you'll see my top 15 rankings every position, and you'll get these questions answered. But yeah, it's Dalvin Cook over Jeff Wilson, 1,000%. Zay Jones or Pierce, that one's pretty close. I think that I would probably go Pierce. I'd probably go Pierce over Zay Jones. It's close, though. Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson. Yeah, let me pull up my QB rankings again. Let me talk through my QB strat. Here, I'll go QBs, then tight ends. Then we'll hit running backs and receivers next. Then I'll get back to some of the comments. So first of all, quarterbacks. The top 4, I think, are really in their own tier. Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. Start these guys. I mean, start them. They should be in high-scoring, good games. I don't know if the Eagles game will be super high-scoring, but you still got to start Jalen Hurts against the Titans secondary. That game is supposed to be close. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. I mean, you got to start these guys. They've all been cooking. Then I think you start Lamar Jackson next. I know his ceiling hasn't been super high this season, but the floor has still been there with his rushing. The Ravens did drop 3 touchdowns last week. I think 2 of those were on the same drive, but really you should have had 2 more passing touchdowns than he did. He did have 23 points last week. He now has at least 15 points in 4 straight games. The floor is solid. He had 89 rushing yards. He's got over 80 rushing yards now in 2 of his last 3. You're starting Lamar, guys. I start him over Fields. Then it's Fields, though. Fields rushing prop line, guys, 67.5. He's had an elite rushing season. I think that could slow down a little bit with his shoulder injury, but I still think you got to hold out some hope for the rushing with Justin Fields, and I'm starting him over Trevor Lawrence. But then it's Trevor Lawrence, and then it's Tua. And then it's sort of the end of the tier, and then I think you could maybe think about Deshaun Watson at that point, but I think he's pretty risky in his first game back in what could be a really run-heavy game script for the Browns against the worst run defense in the league in the Texans. I like Dak and Tom Brady, Geno, sort of after that tier of QBs. All right, on to the tight ends. I think tight ends super straightforward this week. You got to trust Kelsey, Andrews. Obviously, you're trusting Kittle, Hawkinson, Muth, and Schultz. Kittle, Hawkinson, Muth, and Schultz. I have some pretty good confidence in them this week. I think they are must starts in basically all spots. After that, though, I mean, the tight end landscape, we know it's so bleak. That's why I have Taysom Hill ranked number 7. I would start Taysom Hill over Hayden Hurst, over Gerald Everett, over Tyler Conklin, over Foster Moreau, over Greg Dulcich, over Evan Ingram, Tunyon, and Higbee. That's how those tight ends rank, by the way. Again, you can see that right on the YouTube live. On to the running backs, guys. Austin Eckler, he's the number 1 running back this week. Guys, Austin Eckler, we haven't talked at all about him. Obviously, he's not coming up in any of these starts decisions, But guys, he's on pace to break Christian McCaffrey's reception record. I mean, that is truly, truly incredible. I honestly didn't think we'd see that record broken anytime soon. I know there's an extra game now than there was when CMC was playing, so I don't know if he'll beat the receptions per game number that CMC had, but I mean, really, really elite season out of the backfield for Eckler. I mean, he's seeing more catches than almost every receiver. Josh Jacobs, he's at number 2. I do think Jacobs is going to play, so you got to start Josh Jacobs. Similar calf injury situation last week, and we saw what happened last week. He had 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. That might have been the best running back performance of the season, maybe after only Joe Mixon's crazy day against the Panthers. And then I'm starting Kenneth Walker and David Montgomery with a ton of confidence this week too. Kenneth Walker, a 7-point favorite against the Rams. The Rams are horrible. That should mean plenty of carries for Kenneth. David Montgomery seeing really, really elite usage, guys, and he's a really good matchup. David Montgomery has at least 14 carries, at least 67 rushing yards in each of his last 2 games. And with Khalil Herbert out, I really think he's going to hit each of those marks again this week. The Packers, guys, they've allowed at least one running back to go over 65 rushing yards in 10 out of 12 games. That's 83% of the Packers games that they're allowing at least one running back to go for at least 65 rushing yards. And I think that's going to be David Montgomery this week. Walter has him projected for 88 rushing yards this week. So I really like David Montgomery a lot this week as well. You got to start JT, Nick Chubb, obviously with a lot of confidence, ETN, Dalvin Cook, Tony Pollard, Alvin Kamara, Samaje P. Ryan wrap up the top 15. All right, let's get back to some of these comments. I love you, Sam. Lockett, Pollard, or Pierce. It's between the first 2. I like both these guys significantly more than Dameon Pierce. I think, though, the answer here is Tony Pollard. He's a 10-point favorite against the Colts. That's pretty good for Tony Pollard. I think he's getting 15-plus touches again today, even with Zeke playing. Maybe Zeke does vulture a couple touchdowns again, but even still, Pollard's, I think, a pretty good option. Lockett against the Rams is good, but they're pretty big favorites as well. That could be a run-heavy game script for the Seahawks. Watson, not McLaurin. Yeah, I would play Terry McLaurin over Christian Watson for sure. Again, I have Christian Watson as a must bench. I get a lot of comments about that on TikTok. But the reason he's a must bench for me, he doesn't have a game over 4 catches. And McLaurin's almost definitely going over 4 catches. So the floor is way better for McLaurin. The ceiling, maybe you could argue, is a little higher for Watson. But I bet if I look up these prop lines really quick too, I think we already looked at Christian Watson's. His is at 47.5. I think it might have gone down a little. Let me see. Let me refresh here. 49.5 now for Christian Watson. Actually went up a tiny bit. And then McLaurin's line is 64.5. You got to start McLaurin. I guess their lines are close, but I'm going McLaurin for sure over Christian Watson. And Pacheco or Rashad White in full PPR. It's Rashad White in a full PPR league. It's got to be Rashad White. Pacheco does not catch passes. He's 1 catch this whole season, basically, at least over his last 3 games. McKinnon is healthy and playing in this game. He missed some practices this week, but he is going to be playing. Ronald Jones is expected to play as well. I like Pacheco. I do, but I think Rashad White's a little bit better in PPR formats. What's good? Haven't hopped on live in a while. Andrew, good to see you, man. Hope all is well. Watson or Lawrence? I'm going Lawrence over Watson, man. I don't want to root for Watson, but on top of that, I think there's some real risk with Deshaun Watson. He hasn't played in a year and a half, at least a year and a half. Lawrence has a great matchup, too. I really like Trevor Lawrence this week. Let me pull my QB rankings again. I have Trevor Lawrence ahead of Tua, ahead of Deshaun Watson, ahead of Dak. This week, I think you got to go Trevor Lawrence. I'm going Deontay over Lazard as well. I bet Lazard's prop line is probably a little higher than Deontay's, but Deontay's floor is so good. At least 9 points coming from Deontay Johnson in PPR formats. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season. Good match against the Falcons. Wouldn't be shocked if it happens this week. Also, thoughts on impacts on Jameson making his debut. So, yeah, I don't think there's going to be a huge impact to Amon-Ra St. Brown. There could be a pretty big impact to DJ Chark, though. I don't think it's going to be this week. It could be this week, but I don't think it's going to be this week. But sooner rather than later, Jameson Williams is going to be playing DJ Chark's role better than DJ Chark plays it. So I do think that's going to have an impact on DJ Chark, though I think DJ Chark will be the number 3 receiver in this offense on the outside if they move Amon-Ra in the slot. But Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, they've been decent this season too. So he could be sort of battling with DJ. They could be battling with DJ Chark for sort of that number 3 role. That's the biggest impact though. Otherwise, Amon-Ra is still going to be a top 10 receiver. I think Jameson Williams, like he really does have he's going to have a really high ceiling, guys. Jameson Williams, he really could be the best receiver in this stacked wide receiver rookie class. He would have been, I think, the number 1 receiver taken in this class had he not torn his ACL in the national championship game. The dude flies. I mean, elite speed, 99th percentile speed. I'm talking Deshaun Jackson, John Ross type speed. I really think he's going to be like a better version of Mike Wallace in the NFL, and I think that's a pretty high praise. Mike Wallace was a really elite fantasy asset, really good receiver for quite some time with Big Ben back in the day. Good morning. Should I start Allen over Higgins or Allen over Pierce? I'm assuming this means Keenan Allen here over T. Higgins. I'd play Keenan Allen over Pierce. This is the first Keenan Allen question I think I've seen today. I have him ranked number 9. You got to start Keenan Allen, man. I have T. Higgins ranked ahead of him. But I'm starting Keenan Allen over Dameon Pierce in PPR format 100%. Can't figure it out in the WalterPicks app, but I love it. So worth it. Yeah, Max. Thanks for trying out the app, man. Really do appreciate it. It's the number one way you can support me. Really like the subscribers and really all the people using the WalterPicks app. You guys are the reason that I get to do this every Sunday morning. So seriously, thank you for letting me live out this dream. And I look forward to these Sunday mornings every single day, every single week. And yeah, I would definitely go Keenan Allen over Pierce. I think Keenan Allen's floor, ceiling really high. The floor is so good for Keenan. And I'm excited just to see him back and healthy. But yeah, no Mike Williams still. Keenan Allen gets the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders have not been good at anything really this season. And Keenan Allen's back to full health, man. He played 90% of the snaps last week. 7 targets. He ran 40 routes. I mean, that is the looks of a guy that is over his hamstring injuries. Lazard is not a guy I trust a ton. I would play Olave over Lazard. I think I would play Zeke over Lazard as well as a pretty big favorite in that game. Ryan, if Mixon is out, or Garrett Wilson at flex, full PPR. Yeah, Justin, this one's close, man. And I do think Mixon is going to be out. Highly likely chance Mixon is out. We're okay operating under the assumption that Mixon is going to be out. I still would play Garrett Wilson though over Ryan. Again, I really feel like Garrett Wilson is in must-start territory. Ryan's floor is arguably higher than Garrett Wilson's. Ryan's locked into 15-plus touches, most likely with Mixon out. You can't say the same thing about Garrett Wilson, obviously. But Garrett Wilson could have 5 catches and go over 100 yards and score a touchdown in this game. Really bad secondaries up against the Vikings, bottom 3 secondary against receivers, especially they've been bad against outside receivers, where Garrett Wilson's been playing primarily on the outside. He's over under 60 yards. Today, he had 95 yards on 5 catches last game. And with Zach Wilson on the sidelines, like, you got to feel much better about this passing attack. So, yeah, I really like Garrett Wilson in PPR. I think his ceiling's too high to leave on the bench. Like, you're just gonna hate looking at your bench and seeing a 20-plus point bomb from Garrett Wilson on your bench. Olave or Juju, this one's definitely close to. I mean, I like Juju this week. He barely played last week because the game was over before it started with the Chiefs playing. I think it was the Rams last week. And this week they get the Bengals. And what's projected to be a close game. I am taking the Chiefs -2 in that game. I do think the Chiefs win, get a little revenge against the Bengals. I will talk a little bit about Jamar Chase, Jamar Chase questions in the TikTok live decent amount today as well. But yeah, we have Olave ranked number 23. Yeah, number 23 is where Olave stands. And Juju's at a little outside of that, 28. So yeah, I think you got to go Olave. Olave is just seeing too many air yards. Kyron Williams or Bam Knight. Ethan, yeah, this is a digging deep question here. And I do think if this is a PPR format, I'm okay going with Kyron Williams. He should be the lead back this week. If it's not a PPR format, though, I think I would go Bam Knight. So you got to have a sense of what your scoring settings are. If it's a full point per reception league, I'd go Kyron. If it's a half PPR or non-PPR league, I'd go Bam Knight. I do think Kyron will catch more passes than Zonovan Bam Knight. I have Justin Herbert at QB, but I need Mike White or Danny Dimes at Superflex. And then also DeAndre Carter, Darius Slayton, or Antonio Gibson at Flex PPR league. Thanks. Yeah, I wouldn't go Slayton. He's dealing with an injury of his own. I know Carter's coming off a big game. Like he definitely has an interesting floor ceiling, but I think I'd go Gibson over those two guys. And then I'd go Mike White over Danny Dimes. I mean, Mike White, guys, he looks great last week. His over-unders definitely than Daniel Jones. Mike White's prop lines, guys, 33.5 passing attempts is over-under, 1.5 passing touchdowns, and 260 passing yards. His prop line is 40 yards over Jalen Hurts today. I know Jalen Hurts known more for his rushing than his passing, but I mean, Mike White looked good, and it wouldn't be surprising if he goes for like another 300-yard day. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, his over-under is 200 yards. Passing obviously is the rushing upside, but yeah, I'd go Mike White over Daniel Jones for sure. Good spot again for Mike White. The Vikings secondary has been really bad. That's part of the reason those prop lines are so high. Thoughts on Taylor today against Cowboys? Should I play Pierce instead? I have Walker as my RB2. No, I would play Taylor over Pierce. It's not a good matchup for Jonathan Taylor, but the workload's been so elite for such a talented player. He's got over 95% of the snaps in 2 of his last 3 games. I mean, very, very small list if any other running backs you could say that about. And he's running routes too. He ran 30 routes last game, by far the most of the season. He's been involved in the passing game with Matt check down Ryan, throwing a lot of passes. Dobbs out. Oh God, here we go. The Christian Watson must bench is already backfiring here. Let me confirm this. We're getting this from the YouTube live, but do want to get this updated if this is the case. And yeah, we are starting to get some of these official reports here. Finally, we got like 45 minutes left in the stream now. All right, we got no major news from the Titans. Romeo Dobbs is out. Romeo Doubs is out. Let me update this really quickly in the WalterPicks app as well, because that is a big bump for Christian Watson, and we already had this one backfiring live on the stream here with the Christian Watson must bench. Let me see how this impacts though the projections here really quickly. Christian Romeo Doubs with wide receiver. Yeah, it's a slight bump. It's not a huge bump, slight bump for Christian Watson and Allen Lazard. We have Allen Lazard, though, still ahead a little bit of Christian Watson. That makes sense why Christian Watson's prop line went up a little bit as well. Again, his prop line, Christian Watson prop line, right around 50 yards, 49.5 receiving yards. It's not a horrible line for him. He could clear that in a catch or two. But again, his floor is low. He still doesn't have a game over 4 catches, but Doubs being out is big for him. It would have been much riskier to start Christian Watson with Doubs in than him out. Let me update this again really quickly. Then we'll go through the rest of the news that just came out. But again, Romeo Doubs is out. That does make me less confident in saying Christian Watson is a must bench. And if you've been watching me live enough, guys, long enough, you know that like I don't lock into takes. New information comes out, I'm fine changing my takes. I'm fine changing the rankings in the last few minutes of the stream. I don't care. I'm going to react to the new information to give you guys the best advice I can possibly give. I'm not going to lock into takes. But yeah, Christian Watson, I still think he's risky, but much less riskier now with Doubs out. I think he does get a bump over some of those guys we were talking about before. I think like Treylon Burks, for example, I'm okay starting Christian Watson over Treylon Burks. Now, let me actually, I start Christian Watson over Treylon Burks now. I'd start him over Drake London. I'd start him over George Pickens. I think I'd start him over Josh Palmer as well. Ayuk is close. Judy is close. But yeah, all these guys, I think that's the tier that Christian Watson's in. Now, all right, let's get to the rest of the news that just came out here. Again, the big one that I just read is that Romeo Doubs is out today, and we did think he was going to be in today. Let's refresh this one more time here. Yeah, so Romeo Doubs is out. Rex Burkhead inactive. That's kind of big. Benjamin is active for the first time. He'll probably play the Rex Burkhead role, but that definitely does bode well for Dameon Pierce. Kenny Galladay's out. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything, I guess, for the Giants. He's basically running like a mannequin out there, but we did have Kenny Galladay's in. He is out. Now, we had him projected for less than 2 targets, though, so no real big impact there from Kenny Galladay. By the way, I mean, talk about guys that have fallen off a cliff. There's very few guys that have fallen off a cliff as steep as Kenny Galladay has. He went from like a top 15 receiver in the league to literally outside the top like 100 receivers somehow in the league. So yeah, Kenny Galladay's out. That doesn't really change any of the projections though. Jaylen Warren is active today. So we got Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris both expected to play today. I do still like Najee Harris a decent amount. Jamar Chase, guys, he's going to play. And it sounds like he's not in a snap count. You need to start Jamar Chase. We haven't talked about him a ton today, but yeah, Jamar Chase, he's going to be active. Start him. Start Jamar Chase. I get that there's a little bit of concern with the injury, but this is a game against the Chiefs. Really big game for the Bengals here in a division that's really close between them and the Ravens. You got to start Jamar for sure. So some guys that are active. This is coming from Schefter. Jameson Williams active today. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Zay Jones, Antonio Gibson, Najee, all active. Inactive, Rex Burkhead, Michael Carter, Chase Young. Joe Mixon is expected to be inactive, but that's not official yet, but he is expected to be out. All right, Garrett Wilson or Cook? You said the wrong Wilson. Oh, I thought it was Jeff Wilson. I would play Dalvin Cook over Garrett Wilson, though, as well. I would play Dalvin Cook over Garrett Wilson as well. A Pollard or Christian Watson? Yeah, I'd still go Pollard over Christian Watson. Sam, just curious, please pick 2, Jamal Pierce, Zeke, PPR. Oh, God, yeah. Kyler, you're always coming with the toughest deep. Start the questions here. Let me pull up the rankings for this one. None of these guys are in the top 15 of the rankings. Again, this is Jamal, Zeke, Dameon Pierce. I know a lot of people, though, making decisions about these guys. This week, by the way, Samaje Perine with Mixon out. You got to start him. You got to start him in all spots. Dameon Pierce, though, I think is the guy here. I would play Dameon Pierce over Jamal, and I would play Dameon Pierce over Zeke as well. Hi, Sam. Thanks for the help this season. I need some help. Deshaun Watson or 2 or also Gus Bus or Rachaad White. Yeah, I'd go Rachaad White over Gus Bus, and I wouldn't play Deshaun. I'd play Trevor Lawrence over Deshaun. I'd play Tua over Deshaun. I would play Deshaun over Dak and Brady and Geno, but I don't think I'd play Deshaun over any of the guys I have. Let me pull the QB rankings here again. Inside the top 8 QBs, I have Deshaun at number 9. I need flex help, PPR. Pick 1. Sanders, Zeke, Watson, Burks. Yeah, this one's tough. It really is tough. And I don't think it's Watson. And I think Watson's better with Romeo Dobbs now out. I don't think he's a must bench like I thought he was before with Dobbs. I had him projected as in. Sanders for Zeke, though, is super close too. I mean, the matchup for Zeke is better. They're 10-point favorites against the Colts. Zeke probably going to get 10 to 15 carries in that game. Good chance at a touchdown. Let me pull up here. We do have Zeke one spot behind of Miles Sanders, though. The Eagles are obviously favorites against the Titans, but tough matchup for Sanders against the Titans. Honestly, I think Zeke is the safest guy here, and then I would go Burks next. I think I would go Zeke, then Treylon Burks, then Miles Sanders, then Christian Watson, but all these guys are really clustered together for sure. Not easy choices there. Let me just get the updated projections in the WalterPicks app really quickly here, guys, with some of these late inactives. Again, the biggest one was Romeo Dobbs, but Joe Mixon also likely to be inactive. We have that fully in the app now as well. Again, if I didn't get to your start sit, if I haven't got to your start sit yet, I try to do my best to get to as many start sits as I can on this stream. But I'm not going to get to all of them. There's almost 1,000 of you in this stream right now. I just can't get to all the start sits. That's why over the last 3 years, I built an app called the WalterPicks app, which is free to download in the iOS and Android app store that uses machine learning to give us the best projections we can get custom to our league scoring settings and roster settings. Again, it's free to download in the TikTok bio, YouTube description. So check that out. It's also just the number one way you could support me. All the people that have used the WalterPicks app, that have subscribed to one of the subscriptions to the WalterPicks app, they are the reason I get to do this every Sunday morning as a part of my full-time job. So thank you to all of you who checked it out. Thank you to everyone that's in the stream too. Really do appreciate the support on these streams. Love doing these streams every Sunday morning. One of my favorite things to do every single week. And yeah, we are updating those projections now. All right, let's get back to some of these start sits though. We're heading into it. We're getting close to the witching hour on this live stream. This is the real time, guys, where your fantasy matchups, where wins become losses, losses become wins. You got to make the right start sits. This is huge down the stretch. Week 13, we got a couple weeks to the fantasy playoffs. You got to get in. I do think Fournette's going to play, seeing that comment in the YouTube live. Fields or Mike White, have Garrett Wilson, then Pickens or Slayton. Yeah, so you got to go Fields. I like Mike White. It's a good matchup against the Vikings. Again, we just talked about his prop lines. His prop lines are like 250 yards, 33 passing attempts. I mean, they're expecting a huge day from Mike White. He's coming off a big game as well. I would go Garrett Wilson over Pickens. I don't hate the Mike White, Garrett Wilson stack, but with how much Fields has ran this season, you got to start Justin Fields against a bad Packers run defense. Again, I'm nervous that Fields will run less because of this shoulder injury. Definitely something to monitor going forward. But yeah, I'm starting Fields over Mike White, and I'm starting Pickens over Slayton as well. Hey, Sam, good morning. Pickens, Mike Evans, or Pierce? It's got to be Mike Evans. Can you pick two? Yeah, so Mike Evans for sure. And then I think it is Pierce over Pickens. It's close, though. Kareem, Pickens has been playing really well. He gets the Falcons. But Dameon Pierce, no Rex Burkhead this week. Dameon Pierce has a decent matchup against the Browns. The Browns have been a bottom five team against running backs this season. So I think I would go Dameon Pierce and Mike Evans. I know he's been. I would go. I think. You need two there, Kylo. Jamal versus Zeke. I have a feeling that it's going to be Jamal. Yeah, it is. I would go Jamal over Zeke. Kyron Williams or Rashad White. I'd go Rashad White. Yeah, or over Kyron. I do think Leonard Fournette plays this week, but I still think I like Rashad White more than Leonard Fournette. Walker or Cook. You can't bench Kenneth Walker. He's a 7-point favorite against the abysmal Rams. He's going to see plenty of touches today. Burrow or Herbert. Yeah, both those guys. I mean, it should be started in most leagues. I have Herbert one spot ahead of Burrow, but I mean, it's super close between those two. I wouldn't be shocked either way there, but I would go Herbert personally. P. Ryan or Pierce. I'd go P. Ryan over Pierce. I would go P. Ryan over Pierce. I have P. Ryan in my top 15. I don't think Joe Mixon's playing. Watson or Fields. Got to be Fields over Watson. We got Chase in the YouTube live again. Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, Olave, Pittman, have Ramondre at RB1 and Kenneth Walker at RB2. Yeah, Mondre, I mean, he had a solid PPR day, but a little disappointing, honestly, on Thursday night. Didn't hit his rushing prop. I had a lot on that rushing prop line. But still, he came through with almost 14 PPR points because of the checkdowns. So not a bad RB1. Still, we knew Mondre had a really elite floor. That's why I had him ranked as a top 5 running back this week. Anyways, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Aaron Jones. You got to start these three guys. You got to go with these first three for sure. Definitely over Christian Watson, even over Olave and Pittman. They're not horrible, but Amon-Ra is a top 5 option in my opinion this week. AJ Brown, revenge game for AJ Brown. He's a top 10 option for me this week too. I actually have Amon-Ra and AJ Brown both in the top 6. And then Aaron Jones, he's my number 8 running back this week. Really good matchup against the Bears. Bears run defense has been bad. The Bears run defense is bad. The Packers run defense is a bit bad. That's why on my DraftKings lineup, I'm going with David Montgomery and Aaron Jones in this lineup. I'm actually playing Amon-Ra as well. I'm stacking against Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk with Amon-Ra. Really like that stack in tournaments this week. Again, a lot of good quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence might not be the most played quarterback on DraftKings this week, but he's coming off of one of his best games of the season, and he gets the Lions, man. A really good spot against the Lions. I like that stack with Christian Kirk. A lot of people will be playing Zay Jones this week. You definitely can play Zay Jones as well, but I like Kirk a decent amount more than Zay Jones still. And then Garrett Wilson, I'm playing against the Vikings. Talked a lot about him on this stream. I'm going with Muth against the Falcons. He was that number 6 tight end for me right there with Dalton Schultz. The last tight ends that I would trust in fantasy this week are Muth and Dalton Schultz. Nico Collins, I'm also going with. There's no Brandon Cooks this week. He's the pretty clear top target for the Texans this week. All right, let me pull up the tight end rankings again. Again, there's only 6 tight ends I trust. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, T.J. Hawkinson, Pat Freiermuth, and Dalton Schultz. After that, I would just go with Taysom Hill because he's got the highest ceiling left. All of these guys, though, after those top 6, their floor is close to 0 points, if not he's being 0 points. Zonovan Jones, Zonovan Knight. I don't know why I keep calling him Zonovan Jones. Zonovan Knight. Zonovan Bam Knight, who is a good ad. I don't love him as a start this week. My prediction would be around 50 yards for him today. No touchdowns. But he could do better than that. He did look good in his first game with the Jets. I do think he'll lead the backfield, but I think his floor is pretty low because I do think Ty Johnson and James Robinson will get mixed in. Fournette, a bench. Yeah, so I do think Fournette's a bench. He's maybe not as must bench as some of the other guys on this list. But yeah, I don't love Fournette this week because he's coming off the injury and Rachaad White played so well. I like Rachaad White more than Fournette. Hey, Sam, can you pick 3? Francis, I got you, man, in the YouTube live. Again, we're live on YouTube and TikTok. Come to the YouTube live. You'll see my top 15 rankings every single position. Right in the YouTube live. TikTok bio. Go to the TikTok bio. You're like 2 press a finger of the way from the YouTube live. You're watching live on TikTok. If you are watching live on YouTube, guys, hit the like button. Smash the subscribe button. If you are watching live on TikTok, you're not going to come to the YouTube live, hit the follow button. Really do appreciate that. All right, we got this question from Francis in the YouTube live. Debo, Amari Cooper, Godwin, Ayuk or Garrett Wilson, pick 3. Yeah, it's the first 3. I think actually, no, it's not the first 3. It's Amari, Godwin, and Garrett. I don't have Debo in my top 15 this week. I don't feel great about it. Debo obviously is a really high ceiling. I just think the floor is low. I really like Amari Cooper, Godwin, and Garrett, though. Let me pull my wide receiver rankings on the YouTube live, and you'll see all 3 of these guys in there. I would not start Ayuk over any of these guys. Not even close. I'm not starting Ayuk over Debo either. Tua or Geno. I'm going Tua over Geno. Seeing that one in the TikTok live. B-Rob or Rachaad White, full PPR. I like Brian Robinson. I'm not going to lie this week. I'm nervous for Antonio Gibson. I like B-Rob actually a little bit more. I think our projections disagree with me on that one. But I think B-Rob is the guy that's going to get the more of the carries for the Commanders this week. They get the Giants. The Giants have been much worse against running backs than they have against receivers. B-Rob also played more snaps than Antonio Gibson last week, and Gibson was dealing with an injury this week. So I don't hate B-Rob a ton. But I think in a full PPR league, I'm okay going Rachaad White. Again, I think Rachaad White outscores Fournette. Rachaad White had 9 targets last game. Obviously, Fournette was out. Fournette's back. But I still think Rachaad White gets close to half the receiving work in his backfield. Deshaun Watson or Geno Smith. Yeah, so I actually do have Deshaun a couple spots ahead of Geno. I think it's really close. I mean, both guys are in matchups that they should win handedly, right? The Seahawks get the Rams. They're 7-point favorites. The Browns get the Texans. I think they're 8-point favorites, and both teams should be able to run a lot in these games. Deshaun Watson's risky, man. I mean, we haven't seen him play in a year and a half. Again, it could be a really run-heavy game script for the Browns. Or Nick Chubb could just pop off easily against the Texans. I mean, the worst run defense in the league against Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's coming off a huge day, 26 carries, season high, 26 carries for Chubb against the Bucs. I mean, the Bucs are a way better run defense than the Texans. So yeah, I'm a little down on Deshaun just in general. I think he's pretty risky, but I would play him over Geno, I think. I thank you, Sam, for your help. As always, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the games. I just started Taysom over Dolch, by the way. I'm okay with that, man. Kyle, I don't hate it. The ceiling's there. Good luck to you, and enjoy the games to you as well. Hey, Sam, Lockett or P-Ron? PPR. Yeah, it's P-Ron. It's P-Ron over Lockett. What's up, Sam? Pickens or Rachaad White? Already having Najee in there. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I think it is Rachaad White. I think it is Rachaad White over Pickens. It's a good spot for Pickens. Can we get the defense rankings? Yeah, Nick, I didn't make defense rankings. This is all you do with the defense rankings. It's just play the defenses against the worst offenses. It's less about the defenses. It's more about the offenses. Start the defenses playing the Rams. That's the Seahawks this week. Start the defenses playing the Broncos this week. that means the Ravens. And I know the Ravens secondary has been really bad, but yeah, the Ravens, the Seahawks, those are the defenses I'd be looking for if you're looking for defenses. Thoughts on DeAndre Swift? Yeah, Cam, I got lots of thoughts, honestly, on DeAndre Swift. We could do a whole live stream, I think, just on DeAndre Swift. He's been one of the hardest guys to have in fantasy this season because he's on one end of the spectrum, mega talented. I mean, I think he's a top 10 talented running back in the league. He's number 2 in the NFL in yards per touch, but he's made some pretty big mistakes in the running game this season. He keeps bouncing it outside. It seems like the coaching staff doesn't love him in the running game, and he's not the goal line back, and he's only playing about 35% of snaps. So, I mean, he's really tough to trust. I think you should be trying to find other options over DeAndre Swift, but it also just won't be that surprising when DeAndre Swift has this massive, huge game because he plays a little bit more. Like, he just needs to play 50%, just 50% of the snaps. Right now he's at like 30, 35%, 50%. And he's probably a top 20 running back in fantasy and PPR leagues. Piran, Pollard, Jamal Williams, pick 2. It's the first 2. I'm picking both these guys over Jamal. I think Jamal is startable in a lot of spots, but not over Piran without Joe Mixon out. Piran had an 80% snap share last game. He scored touchdowns in back-to-back games. This is going to be a high-scoring game against the Chiefs, close game against the Chiefs, 2-point spread. In this game, you got to start Piran. And you got to start Pollard, too. He's a 10-point favorite against the Colts. I know Zeke's playing, but yeah, I would definitely go with the first 2 guys there. Zay Jones, Watson, or Debo. Yeah, it's Debo. It's Debo, man. It's Debo over Zay Jones. It's Debo over Christian Watson. I don't think Christian Watson's as much of a must bench, by the way, for those of you on the TikTok live. I have him as must bench here, but I thought Romeo Dobbs was going to play, and he's not playing anymore. So I think Christian Watson's a little bit better than I thought going into the stream. I still would play Debo over him, though. Fields or T-Law? Yeah, so again, I got my QB rankings up right now, and I do have Fields one spot ahead of T-Law. I'm okay going Fields over Trevor Lawrence. I am playing Trevor Lawrence, though, in my DraftKings lineup. I'm stacking with Christian Watson because you want to play guys that are playing the lines. And I also love getting the run back here with Amon-Ra. I like the Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, Amon-Ra stack today. Godwin or Garrett Wilson. It's got to be Godwin over Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson today. I really think he's a must start in almost every single situation, but not over Godwin, who had 12 catches last week. Hey, Sam, big week. Christian Watson, Palmer and Fields, T-Law, or Watson. Yeah, I'm okay going Christian Watson over Josh Palmer. If you pull up the lines for these guys, actually, Josh Palmer, 55.5 receiving yards. Christian Watson, 49.5. Josh Palmer's receiving line is higher than Christian Watson's. There is no Mike Williams in this game. So honestly, I think it is. I think it is Josh Palmer over Christian Watson. I would argue Christian Watson's ceiling's maybe a little higher. But then those 3 quarterbacks, yeah, I think it goes Fields, then T-Law, then Watson. Again, the rushing for Fields has just been so insanely elite this season. He's been the best rushing quarterback in the league, really, this season, ahead of Lamar Jackson. Justin Fields' rushing prop today, guys, 67.5 rushing yards. They don't seem too concerned about the shoulder injury. That's higher than Lamar's, who's at 61.5. I still like Lamar more than Fields, though, because I am factoring in that shoulder injury a little bit. I do think that there's a decent chance that Justin Fields runs less because of the shoulder injury. All right. Scary Terry, London, or Kamara at flex. Yeah, I still do feel like it's Kamara here. I wouldn't play London over either of them. The London's in a good matchup. I won't be surprised with some big Drake London games around the corner, but I don't like him more than either of these guys, and I do think you got to go Alvin Kamara still. I would play Dameon Pierce over Bam Knight. Is Darius Slayton a good start? He's not terrible. He's the top receiver for the Giants, but this is the Giants we're talking about. And Daniel Jones over under today is only 200 passing yards. And they get the Commanders, though. It's a pretty good spot for Darius Slayton. He does have at least 6 targets in 4 of his last 5 games. Like, he's not a horrible start. He's gotten over 9 points now in 5 straight games. He's got at least 60 yards in 5 straight games for Darius Slayton. He's been kind of consistent. I actually didn't realize he was that consistent. I'm okay going Darius Slayton in some spots. Pick 1, B-Rob, Pickens, Thielen, Pacheco, full PPR. This one's tough. I kind of feel like Pickens is the best option here against the Falcons. Let me quickly pull up the numbers here for Pickens. He's made a lot of highlight reel plays, but let's see if he's actually been consistent. And yeah, he has. I think it is Pickens. Pickens now has at least 10 points in 4 of his last 5. He's had 6 targets in each of his last 2 games. He's playing it pretty much every snap, and he has a really good matchup this week against the Falcons. I'm okay going Pickens over B-Rob, over Pacheco, over Adam Thielen. Walker or Pierce, got to start Kenneth Walker, guys. He's playing the Rams. They're huge favorites against the Rams. JT, Monty Higgins, pick 2. JT, Monty Higgins, pick 2. Yeah, I think I'd go Monty, and I think Higgins over JT. What's wrong with Watson? Bears secondary banged up. Yeah, the Bears secondary is banged up. I actually I'm already eating a little bit of an L with this Christian Watson take. I never change the background on the TikTok live. Once the TikTok live starts, I started this live now over 2.5 hours ago. And I thought Romeo Doubs was going to play today. And I thought that really lowered the floor for Christian Watson. But he's not playing. Christian Watson's prop line's right around 50 yards. I think his floor is still pretty low, though, because he doesn't have a game over 4 catches. I don't think that happens today. I don't think he goes over 4 catches. So he's going to really have to have some big plays, which he definitely is capable of. He's very Gabriel Davis-esque. But I don't think he's a must bench anymore. With Romeo Doubs sitting, I think you can start Christian Watson. He does have a decent ceiling with Romeo Doubs out, and it does help his floor a little bit too. Hey, Sam, Damian Pierce, Jamal Williams, Garrett Wilson, half PPR. I'd go Garrett Wilson over Damian Pierce, over Jamal Williams. Guys, you guys got to start Garrett Wilson against the Vikings. There's no way around it. His ceiling is just too high. Tad, man, good to see you back in the YouTube live. JT, Walker, and Kamara start too. Here we are, Tad. We're benching Alvin Kamara, man. It's tough. He's still, I think, extremely talented. More talent. I think he's more talented than he's shown still this season. But yeah, you got to go JT and Walker. Let me pull my running back rankings here, and you'll see I have Kamara well below, I think, both these guys. I have Alvin Kamara at number 14. Kenneth comes at number 6 this week. He's a great matchup against the Rams. 7-point favorites against the Rams. The Rams are not going to be able to beat the Seahawks in this game. And then JT's at number 9. JT's running a lot of routes. 30 routes last game for JT. Played 95% of the snaps for a second time in 3 games. Not many running backs seeing that workload as good as JT too. So yeah, you got to start JT with a lot of confidence, I think, even in kind of a tough matchup for him. Sam, please, full point PPR. Do I get Conklin, Taysom Hill, Ingram, Moreau? Yeah, so for me, it's Taysom Hill. I'll talk through why I think that. If you're not going to shoot for the ceiling, though, Conklin, I think, is the next best bet. And then also start Lamar, Justin Fields, or pick up Lawrence. Yes, Lamar for me over Fields as well. Let me go through the QBs and tight ends again really quickly for everyone on the YouTube and TikTok live. And then you're starting Jamar. You got to start Jamar Chase. I like Christian Kirk a lot too, but I'm starting Jamar everywhere I have him. I think I have him ranked behind Kirk, but I'm not benching Jamar Chase in this game against the Chiefs. It doesn't sound like he's going to be in a snap count. The fact that that's even possible means you got to start Jamar Chase. All right, let me talk through the QBs and tight ends, though, again, really quick. So first of all, I think Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, they're sort of in their own tier. Then Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields are in a tier of their own as well. I would play Lamar over Fields because I think there's a little bit more risk with Fields due to the shoulder injury to not run as much. So I will say Justin Fields' rushing prop line is higher than Lamar Jackson's this week, so I could end up being wrong about that. I'm factoring in the shoulder injury a little bit more, though, than that prop line. And then Trevor Lawrence is next, though. I play Trevor Lawrence against the Lions over Tua, over Deshaun, over Dak. I like him a lot, too. But I play Lamar, then Fields, then Trevor Lawrence. At the tight end position, guys, the tight end position, we know it is bleak as it gets. It doesn't get bleaker than the tight end position. There's only 6 tight ends I have any faith in today. It's Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Hawkinson, Muth, and Schultz. That's it. Then I'm playing Taysom Hill at number 7 because I think his ceiling is way higher than every other guy on this list. And all of them have such a low floor that I'm okay trotting out Taysom Hill and eating a bad game from Taysom because all these other tight ends could have really bad games too. I don't hate Tyler Conklin. # revenge game for Tyler Conklin against the Vikings today. But yeah, I'd play Taysom over basically everyone that's not in that top 6. Hey, Sam, happy Sunday. B-Rob, Pacheco, Ayuk, full PPR. I think I would go Ayuk in this one. Hey, Sam, good afternoon at this point. Zach, good afternoon to you as well. Very funny when people say good morning. I've been up for, at least 6 hours at this point. It feels very much like the afternoon. It is the afternoon. Now, we are 50 minutes from kickoff. Lenny or Rashad, I don't know who to start in this offense. Also, you have a DFS. Yeah, Zach, I'll pull up the DFS, and I am going Rashad over Lenny. Certainly there's a little bit of guesswork here with the Rashad versus Lenny because Rashad balled out with Lenny out, but Lenny really was the lead back when they were both playing before. I think that shifts a little bit this week. I do like Rashad a little bit more than Lenny, but yeah, there's definitely some risk with both guys this week. But I would not be starting Lenny. I think because I like Rashad more than him, I think Lenny's the riskier of the two. And I just think Rashad earned more playing time. But with his last game, he caught 9 of his 9 out of 9 targets last game. Here's the DFS lineup, by the way. I do really like the Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk stack against the Lions and running it back with Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra is my favorite value receiver, maybe my favorite value overall on DFS this week. He's priced too low, simply too low against the Jaguars. Then I like the David Montgomery, Aaron Jones mini stack. They're playing each other. The Bears run funnel defense, the Packers run funnel defense. Both guys I think are going to see 15 plus carries in this game. I really like Garrett Wilson against the Vikings. I like Muth as the back end of my tight end tier, and then Nico Collins. He's the clear top receiver for the Texans today with Brandon Cooks out. And then I'm playing the Seahawks because they're playing the Rams. Eagles or Browns defense. Yeah, I'd go the Browns defense against the Texans over the Eagles defense against the Titans. The Eagles defense, by the way, guys, their run defense has been pretty suspect over the last few games, over the last few weeks. It's a pretty clear weakness for the Eagles defense up against Derrick Henry today. I don't hate the Derrick Henry prop over 88.5 rushing yards. It's one of the lowest lines he's had this season, and he really could easily go over 100 yards today against the Eagles. Okay, got some big decisions to make. Tua or Deshaun? I'm going Tua over Deshaun. Pick two, Kamara, Kenneth, or P. Ryan. I'm going Kenneth and Kamara. Actually, I think it's Kenneth and P. Ryan. It's so tough for me to start. I think we had this question earlier, and I think I said Kamara, but the more I think about it, I do think P. Ryan outtouches Kamara. I think you go Kenneth and P. Ryan over Alvin Kamara. Finally, Kirk or Godwin? All PPR, love the stream. Yeah, it's Godwin over Kirk. I have Kirk in the top 10, but I have Godwin in the top 8. I think I have Kirk at number 10 and Godwin at 8. Godwin's coming off a 12-catch game. Not as good of a matchup for Godwin as it is for Christian Kirk, so it's certainly close, but after the last game and the elite volume Godwin's getting, and one of the most pass-heavy offenses in the league nonetheless, I am liking. I don't have the answer to this right off the top of my head. I'm not going to embarrass myself with my DB knowledge off the top of my head, but I will think about this because this is a fun question to think about. Kamara or Rachaad White? It's Alvin Kamara here, though. Yeah, I'd play Kamara over Rachaad White. I would play P. Ryan over both these guys, but I'd play Kamara over Rachaad White. Hey, Sam, Latavius Murray or Thielen PPR. Also thoughts on Olave rest of the season. Yeah, I've been high on Olave rest of the season all year. I think he's a top 25 wide receiver rest of the season, maybe not as close to the top 10 as I once thought he could be, but he's still elite. He's still seeing tons of air yards, a really good, valuable deep targets down the field. So, yeah, I like Olave. And I would play Thielen over Latavius Murray. I still don't have very much faith in Latavius. What's happening with P. Ryan Mixon? Mixon's out. He's going to sit again this week. He's still in the concussion protocol. He's not officially out, but he is doubtful. We got a report, really big report here from Adam Schefter. Josh Jacobs is going to play today against the Chargers. He's officially in. Start Josh Jacobs with so much confidence. Glad we kept him at number 2 in our running back rankings. Really good spot for him against the Chargers. But yeah, P. Ryan's going to be the lead back again with Mixon out. So that makes him a top 15 running back, in my opinion. Sanders or Knight. I would go Sanders over Bam Knight still. Over Zonovan Knight. Hey, Sam, loving the app. Thanks, man. Nick, I do appreciate that. Yeah, guys, the number one way you can support me, checking out the WalterPicks app in the TikTok bio, in the YouTube description. Gonna help you get to. It's gonna help you answer all these pretty much every comment that I'm seeing in the live stream right now across YouTube and TikTok. Are close to 500 of you in this live right now. Shout out to all of you, by the way. Could be answered just by downloading the WalterPicks app, going to the Start Sit tool, tapping on a couple players, and hitting compare. It'll give you projected points, custom league settings, boom, the bust probability, matchup ratings, everything you could need to make your own best decision. But yeah, I would play Rachaad White over Jeff Wilson. I'd play him over Latavius Murray. I'd play him over Bam Knight. And I think I'd play him over Antonio Gibson too. I really think it's Rachaad White. I think it's Rachaad White. This is a tough one, though. Between 5 running backs, like one of these guys is going to end up scoring a touchdown with the other ones dope. But I like Rachaad White the most. Hey, Sam, Dak or Fields? Yeah, it's Fields over Dak for me, man. Again, his rushing prop is 67.5, and that's just so elite at the quarterback position. If he's going to run like that, you got to start Fields over Dak. It's Fields for me over Dak. And the Cowboys are also big favorites today, 10-point favorites against the Colts. There might not be very much passing from the Cowboys today. All right, guys, we're getting to the rapid fire section of the live. About 15 minutes left in this live stream. We got to get these start sits right. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. Come to the YouTube live for my top 15 rankings, every single position. Link is in the TikTok bio. Christian Watson, Mike Evans, Pollard at flex. I'd rank those guys as Pollard, then Mike Evans, then Christian Watson. Kamara, Dameon Pierce. Struggling, but happy Sunday. Yeah, Robert. Everyone that has Alvin Kamara, they're struggling, man. It's tough out there. And I would go Alvin Kamara over Dameon Pierce, but I don't feel super strongly about it. I do like Dameon Pierce today. The Browns have low-key been horrible against running backs this season. Bottom 5 defense against running backs this season. No Rex Burkhead today, too. Like, I feel like you could really talk yourself into Dameon Pierce over Alvin Kamara, but at the same time, it's Alvin Kamara, man. It's not easy to bench one of the most talented running backs over the last 3 years. Alvin Kamara gets a matchup, though, against the Bucs. They've been pretty good against running backs this season. They've been they kind of got torched by Nick Chubb last week, but they're still a top 3 defense against running backs from a fantasy perspective. The Browns are a bottom 5 defense against running backs from a fantasy perspective. Honestly, just talking through this, man, it kind of has to be Dameon Pierce. Robert, over Alvin Kamara. It's tough, man. It's tough, but I think you swallow that and you play Dameon Pierce over Alvin Kamara. What's up, Sam? Peoples-Jones or Christian Watson? It's Christian Watson. It's Christian Watson over Dameon Pierce. Over Peoples-Jones. I think I would play Dameon Pierce over Christian Watson, but I wouldn't play Peoples-Jones over Christian Watson. The Christian Watson I had as a must bench in the TikTok live. I'm taking that back a little bit. I'm already eating the L on that a little bit. I would play Thielen over Swift, by the way, even though I do think a huge Swift game could be coming. TJ, thanks for the sub-star. Shout out to all the TikTok subscribers, by the way. But yeah, Romeo Doubs is out. So I don't think Christian Watson's as much of a must bench. His over-under is right around 50 yards. He has big playability, but he's probably not going to go over 4 catches. He doesn't have a game over 4 catches this whole season. He's very Gabriel Davis-like. So the floor is low, ceiling's high for Christian Watson. But I say the floor is low for Peoples-Jones and the ceiling's lower for Peoples-Jones. I know a lot of people are excited for his connection with Deshaun. But I think that could be a really run-heavy game script for the Browns today. Nick Chubb, 20-plus carries against the Texans. I mean, fire that up with so much confidence, and the Browns could easily win the game just on the ground with Nick Chubb. All right, pick 2, please. JT, Kyron, Lazard, Deontay. So, yeah, for sure it's JT first. And then I think I would go Deontay over Lazard and over Kyron Williams. I like Deontay against the Falcons. I like Deontay more than most people because he's seeing really elite target volume. And that's what it's all about, guys. It's about chasing the targets. And that's what Deontay Johnson's getting, man. 8.5 targets a game. That's top 10 in the league. Against the Falcons today. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season. It's only a matter of time. Man, for Deontay, I'd go JT and Deontay. DeAndre Carter, Thielen, Burks, full PPR pick 1. I think I'd go Burks. Personally, it's close between all three of these guys. I know DeAndre Carter and Thielen, both coming off really good games. But I really like the progress from Traylon Burks. He's seen at least 6 targets in each of his last 2 games, at least 70 yards each of his last 2 games. The matchup for Thielen's not terrible. The matchup for Burks is not great either. The matchup for Carter is probably the best one here. But yeah, I'd go Burks in a full PPR league over Thielen and over DeAndre Carter. Hey, Sam Watson or Dak. Yeah, so I actually do have Deshaun Watson one spot ahead of Dak. I mean, it's close. I think both those offenses could be pretty run heavy today. I'll pull up my QB rankings again on the YouTube Live. Again, link to the YouTube Live right in the TikTok bio, guys. You're 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube Live. Get my top 15 rankings every position. Is Mixon out? Yeah, Mixon is expected to be out. Deshaun Watson's risky, guys. I mean, I'm going to be watching him super closely like the rest of you to see how he looks in his first game in basically over a year and a half. He was a top 5 QB in the league, guys, before he went through all of this. Before he stopped playing over a year and a half ago. I think he's going to get back to that, like, kind of soon. But I don't know if it's going to be in this first game against the league worst running defense. Godwin or Chase, I don't want to bench Chase, man. I really don't want to bench Jamar Chase. Honestly, I have Godwin ranked, like, well ahead of Chase. But seeing these reports that Jamar Chase has a good chance to not be on a snap count against the Chiefs in what could easily be the highest scoring game of the day, man, like, start Jamar Chase. Start Jamar Chase. I get why Godwin projects better than Jamar coming off the injury. We have Jamar projected like for a little less snap count than usual because he's coming off the injury. And there was reports this week that he could be on a snap count, but there's also been reports today that he's not going to be on a snap count. And like, you can't leave Jamar Chase on your bench. He's one of the best receivers of all time so far through his career. You got to start Jamar. You got to start Jamar against the Chiefs. There's no way around it. Drop Tony to pick up DeAndre Carter and start over London, half PPR. Nope. Hold on to Tony, play London. Even if Carter projects a little better, I still think Tony has a ceiling if he comes back. Donovan Knight or Cortland Sutton, flex full PPR. Yeah, Sutton gets a pretty big ding, I think, with Judy back. Judy was kind of the preferred receiver for Russ when they were both playing together. Also, this offense is, just not one you want to invest in. They're averaging 1.3 touchdowns per game. That's dead last in the NFL. I'm okay going Donovan Knight over Cortland Sutton. Pick 2 half PPR. Pacheco, B-Rob, Pollard, Sutton, Judy, Burks. Happy Sunday, GOAT. Philip, thanks for tuning into the live again. Always appreciate you tuning in. And I think it is Pollard for sure here in a half PPR league. Then it's really close between the rest of these guys. I don't really trust Judy or Sutton. I think it's between – I kind of feel like it's between B-Rob and Burks. Personally, I think I'd go Burks. I think I'd go Pollard and Burks. But Burks quietly is breaking out. He's had 2 games now in a row over 6 catches, or with at least 6 catches, at least 70 yards. Not a great matchup for him against the Eagles, but I mean, he's got something to prove here. Traylon Burks versus A.J. Brown today. That's going to be a very fun game to watch. Let's just go game by game really quick. I don't think I've done that yet in the stream. Then we'll wrap up the rapid fire start sits. Guys, thank you so much all, by the way, for tuning in. Really, really appreciate everyone that's in this live stream right now. All right, let's go to my picks against the spread. So first of all, we did hit the Bills pretty easily against -4 on Thursday night. Pessimistic Pats fan came out in me there. I'm taking the Jets +3, Eagles -4.5 to start out. I think the Jets could straight up beat the Vikings. I think their passing attack could really light up against this Vikings secondary. Obviously, the Vikings have been pretty good this season, and the Jets are underdogs in that game, but I think they could straight up win, so I like them a decent amount against the spread. I also like the Eagles to cover against the Titans. My free player prop of the day, by the way, is Jalen Hurts, over 220 passing yards. I really like him against this Titans secondary. This Titans secondary has allowed at least 220 passing yards in every single game this season, but 2. And those 2 games were against Daniel Jones and Davis Mills. Jalen Hurts better passer than both those guys. So yeah, I like Jalen Hurts a lot to clear this line. One of my favorite lines of the day. I also like the Jaguars +1 against the Lions. I think the Jaguars are straight up better than the Lions, and I think they will beat the Lions in this game. I like Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars offense in this game too. Chargers +2 against the Raiders. A little surprised by that line, honestly. I know the Chargers are struggling a little bit. The Raiders coming off a big win, sort of, against who they beat, the Seahawks. But yeah, I still think the Chargers are better than the Raiders. I think that game's in Las Vegas. Maybe that's why they get the slight edge there. But I like that game against the spread as well. A lot of really good games today, though, guys. There's so many good games to be excited for. A lot of projected close games between good teams. The Jets and Vikings, both winning teams. That game's a 3-point spread. Again, I really like Garrett Wilson in that game. I don't think Bam Knight is like a lock by any means. I thought he was a good ad. I don't think he's a great start, but he can be started if you're really in a pinch. I do think he leads that backfield today. Obviously starting Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, one of the few tight ends I trust. Dalvin Cook must start as well. Titans, 4.5-point underdogs against the Eagles. Again, I really like Jalen Hurts in that passing attack today. Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, must starts. Miles Sanders, really not a must start this week against a good Titans run defense. Traylon Burks, I think it could really keep it going, though, in this game, too. And I really like Derrick Henry against the Eagles, a weak run defense. They really have been a weak run defense over the last month. The Browns against the Texans. We've got Deshaun Watson returning against the Texans. I think this is going to be a really run-heavy game script for the Browns. I would be cautious starting Deshaun in fantasy. I've ranked number 9 this week. He absolutely could quickly become a top 5 quarterback again in the NFL. But against the Texans, league worst run defense, I think it could be a lot of Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt today. Nico Collins should be the top receiver for the Texans with Brandon Cooks out. Dameon Pierce is definitely startable. The Browns have been bottom 5 against running backs this season from a fantasy perspective. But outside of that, you're not starting any Texans players. Broncos, 8.5-point underdogs against the Ravens. Fire up the Ravens defense, even though the Ravens secondary has been bad. Let's fire up Lamar still, even though the Broncos defense has been good. I'm nervous for Sutton with Judy back. I don't trust Latavius Murray. I really don't trust anyone in this Broncos offense right now. They're averaging 1.3 touchdowns per game. That's just absolutely terrible. The Commanders, 2.5-point favorites against the Giants. I was kind of surprised by this spread. I'm taking the Giants in this game. I think the Giants could very easily win this game at home. And it's a game where Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, I think could outperform expectation a little bit against the Commanders defense. Jaguars, 1.5-point underdogs against the Lions. Again, I'm taking the Jaguars a plus 1.5. I think the Jaguars straight up can beat the Lions in this game as well. The Packers, 3.5-point favorites against the Bears. I think I took the Bears. Yeah, I did. I did take the Bears, 3.5-point underdogs. Another game where I think the Bears could win straight up at home against the Packers. I like both David Montgomery and Aaron Jones a lot in that game. Also, sneaky sleeper in that game, Chase Claypool. Darnell Mooney's out. I mean, there's no excuse to have Chase Claypool on the sidelines. He's been on the sidelines way too much since he's been traded there. And with Darnell Mooney out, you got to assume he's going to get involved against the Packers today. The Steelers, 1-point favorites against the Falcons. I'm taking the Falcons at home there as well. I think the Falcons can very easily win that game straight up. I think Drake London, a sneaky sleeper. He's sort of the only Falcons player that I really trust this week. I don't hate Cordell Patterson if you really have to start a running back. I like George Pickens, Najee Harris in this game. Deontay Johnson, I think, is still a really high forward play as well. Dolphins, 5.5-point underdogs in San Francisco. I'm taking the Dolphins this game, man. Dolphins are going to win this game. I really think the Dolphins are just as good, if not better, than the 49ers. I don't love Tua in this matchup. I don't love Jeff Wilson in this matchup. 49ers have been really good against the run, but I still think Tua is startable. I think I have met number 6 or 7 QB right after Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson tier. And the 49ers side of the ball, you're starting Debo still. He's risky, but you're starting him against the Dolphins. Obviously starting CMC. I could see a really big CMC day today. Seahawks versus the Rams. Seahawks now 6.5-point favorites. I really like Kenneth Walker today against a horrible Rams team. Seahawks are going to win this game. The Rams are just so terrible. There's not a single Rams player I trust. Not a single one. I mean, if you really got to shout out Van Jefferson, go ahead, be my guest. Kyron Williams, like he could get some dump offs, but really you don't want anyone in this offense without Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Allen Robinson. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. I think their floors are kind of low today, but both can be started. The Chiefs, 2.5-point favorites against the Bengals. I do think Chiefs win this game. I like a Juju in this game. Juju barely played last week, but he's going to be playing this week a considerable amount of snaps in what should be a really high-scoring game. Over-under this game is 52.5. That's the highest over-under of the week, and it makes sense. It's projected to be a close game, and we know how these close games get, especially for the Chiefs, and Bengals really have been pass-heavy this season too. Joe Mixon out. That means Samaje Perine, top 15 running back this week. He scored in back-to-back games, 80% snap share last game with Joe Mixon out. Start Samaje Perine, start Jamar Chase. Obviously, you're starting T. Higgins. With Jamar Chase back, though, I don't want anything to do really with Tyler Boyd, though. Definitely could see him making some plays in that game as well. I don't love Isaiah Pacheco in this spot either, but he could easily see 10-plus carries again and has a decent chance at a TD. Obviously, you're starting Travis Kelce. Chargers, 2.5-point underdogs against the Raiders. I like the Chargers in this game. I think Chargers win this game straight up. A lot of small underdogs, I think, could win these games straight up this week. You're obviously starting Eckler, who has on pace to beat CMC's all-time reception record. Absolutely insane. You're starting Keenan Allen with a ton of confidence, too. And Josh Jacobs is playing today. Start him. Start Devontae Adams. I don't trust anyone else, basically, in that game. Josh Palmer has some sneaky upside. DeAndre Carter, similar to him, too. But I don't trust them as much as Keenan Allen. Of course, Colts 10.5-point underdogs against the Cowboys. Start Tony Pollard with a ton of confidence. Start CeeDee Lamb still, even in a tough matchup. Start Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman can be started as well. Other than that, though, I think this game is kind of sketchy from a fantasy perspective. Then last but not least, we got the Saints 3.5-point underdogs on Monday Night Football against the Buccaneers. I do like the Saints to cover in that game. I think the Saints could win straight up. And I guess Olave is a startable player. Kamara is risky, but startable as well. I think I'm right at the back end of my top 15 running backs this week. There you have it. Those are all the games. Really exciting games this week. All right. That's about it, guys. I'm going to get to some more comments really quickly, and then we'll wrap up the stream here. Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence. I'd go Herb over Lawrence. Do I trade Eckler for Etienne and Garrett Wilson PPR? It's fair, but no, I would not trade away Eckler. Again, we just talked about him. He's on track to break the record for receptions in a running back season. Rashad White, Gus Edwards, Kyron Williams. I would go with Rashad and Kyron Williams over Gus. The floor for Gus is so low. He doesn't catch passes, and he's always at risk of being vultured TDs. Thanks, Sam. Got you, Ryan. DK or Donovan Peoples-Jones. Got to be DK Metcalf, man. Hey, Sam, I already made it to the playoffs, but I'm trying to hold that number one spot. Who should I start? Jamal Williams, Lockett, Lazard. I would go Lockett over Jamal and Lazard. I would go Jamal over Lazard as well. So I'd go Lockett, Jamal, then Lazard. All right, guys, that is my time. Thank you so much for tuning in. If I didn't get your start sit, guys, I'm telling you, go to the WalterPicks app in the iOS and Android app store. It's free to download. You can do as many start sit comparisons for free as you want. You're going to get matchup ratings. You're going to get projections, custom to your league scoring settings. Guys, good luck this week. As always, time is the most valuable thing we have. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'll be back live as always Thursday night, posting weekly content on TikTok, daily content on TikTok, weekly content over on YouTube. Make sure you're hitting that follow button and subscribe button so you don't miss out on that. Have a good one, guys, and good luck.